Cool. All right, off we go. Start here. We'll pick up with. Oh, yes, nice. Illegal immigrants getting mortgages? Government-backed mortgages?
You know, during the Biden administration, there were over 12 million illegal aliens that came over the border, straining our housing supply and making the costs go up. And so we work with Secretary Noem at DHS, as you alluded to make sure that only American citizens are living in HUD-funded housing. We also took away FHA-backed mortgages from illegal aliens during the Biden administration. They turned a blind eye. But we're going to keep the law to make sure that these mortgages, which are backed by the taxpayer, go only to the American people. And lastly, we are mandating that every public housing authority give us a comprehensive account who's living in every unit in taxpayer HUD-funded housing.
Wow. Actually, there was another impact of that wide open border. Absolutely.
The building shut down, or shutting down, rather. Okay, down the pile we go here. How USAID pays journalists to dig up dirt and cook up crimes on its enemies.
We had a little bit of unfinished business when it came to this thing called the OCCRP. Just think of it as the corruption reporting.
Oh, this is quite long. It's like 2 hours long.
Project.
But to maybe come back to that if we run out of material. We'll see. But that's a really interesting one. Trump is taking a massive victory lap on the experts. His tariffs are creating great wealth and unprecedented national security for the USA. Trade deficit's been cut by 60%, totally unheard of, 4.3% GDP and going way up. No inflation. We're respected as a country again. If that carries on through the rest of this year, we'll be in a pretty good spot. Nick Shirley's bombshell footage of rampant Somali fraud in Minnesota. Wow, already over 22 million views on a single post. And nearly 200,000 likes. Whoa. California state auditor found he lost track of $24 billion in homeless funds and allowed $32 billion in unemployment fraud, and doubled the number of high-risk agencies.
Yeah, so this came from the nonpartisan state auditor, which essentially christened California the fraud capital of the United States.
Yep.
With the number of agencies classified as high risk, meaning there's rampant fraud, abuse, mismanagement, it has doubled during Gavin Newsom's tenure from 4 agencies to 8 agencies. So we're talking about all kinds of fraud when it comes to Medicaid, when it comes to SNAP benefits, when it comes to uninsurance benefits. And all of this, by the way, comes on top of the incredible fraud and waste and mismanagement that we already knew about. The high-speed train where there's been no track laid in 17 years, spending $18 billion. The $32 billion during COVID at a minimum of unemployment insurance fraud. The $650 million on a canceled 911 next generation system that was canceled because the technology wasn't there. And so California is absolutely, under this governor, the fraud capital of the United States. And this is exactly the model that Governor Newsom wants to take to the rest of the country.
Well, you got the governor's attention because he responded to you saying, quote, Kylie is wrong. The auditor's high-risk list does not allege wrongdoing or billions in currency lost. It is a management tool used to target complex programs for heightened oversight and corrective action. Representative Kylie's claims are flat out false and misrepresent both the state auditor's report and the facts. Quick, your reaction to this?
I invite anyone to read the audit. And by the way, there have been other audits, like the one that found that $24 billion was spent on homelessness and they lost track of the money.
Ugh.
Yeah, and you know, you can look at the bottom line there in the state of California. They're billions of dollars in debt. Congressman Kylie, thank you so much for joining us tonight on this.
That is disgusting. Not exactly all that surprising.
I don't think anybody disagrees with that. 7 million means that they're not just going after criminals.
Well, they're going after people who are in the country illegally, right?
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying the criminals, this is a much bigger universe.
Doesn't that make you a criminal?
No, it doesn't.
To come across the border illegally?
Coming into the country illegally is a civil offense. It's not a criminal offense.
Okay, if you come into the country illegally, here's the message. We're going to find you and send you back. I mean, I'm sorry, that's the way it is. And I think the government should pull all the levers at its disposal to find people and pull this off. It's what the American people asked Donald Trump to do. Yes, they should be deporting violent people.
All of them.
Yes, they should be deporting people who committed violent acts before they came here. But at some juncture, if you're going to allow any illegal immigration at all, the message then goes out. Just get here, it'll probably work out for you. That was the last administration.
Yep. That guy we saw. Scandal of the Mar-a-Lago raid. Ooh.
A former Trump attorney, someone that worked with the Department of Justice, has an op-ed in the Wall Street Journal. Here's the headline. It says, "The scandal of the Mar-a-Lago raid. I've never seen a case with so many irregularities with such manifest political motivation." You go into the weeds, and Trusty adds this: "If you doubt this was all singular treatment, read the opinion in Judicial Watch's 2012 lawsuit against the National Archives. The judge ruled that Bill Clinton's 79 audio tapes of candid discussions about his presidency with the historian were considered personal by Mr. Clinton and thus protected from forced disclosure to the archives. It helped Mr. Clinton's characterization that he kept all the tapes in a sock drawer, and the judge pointed out that the Presidential Records Act gives former presidents great power to make these personal and presidential determinations." It's interesting once you go into the details, Charlie.
Yeah, you know, we knew at the time that this was an extraordinary thing that had happened, where you actually had a new administration launching a raid on the personal private home of a former president, a political enemy, still a former and future president of the United States, political enemy. But as more of these details of this raid and what went into this raid and the degree to which the White House, the Biden White House was intimately involved in the prosecution of this raid on the former First Lady and future First Lady's underwear drawer, taking and all of the photographs that they took of the items that they seized, which I would argue, and I think that smart lawyers will argue were not in the purview of the FBI, taking pictures clearly intended to embarrass, humiliate, and intimidate a political opponent. It really is extraordinary.
Well, and just to put it into context, to sum this up, you had approximately 30 agents showed up at Mar-a-Lago over a documents dispute. That's what this was. It was a documents dispute. Unprecedented. We have never seen anything like this before against a former president. And we know that it was the Department of Justice that pushed aggressively for this tactic, that the FBI wanted a little bit of a lesser aggressive approach, but Biden's DOJ pushed for this. And then the height of hypocrisy of all of this is what did we find out about Joe Biden?
Right.
That he had a mountain of classified documents that he had been hanging on to, and also had bragged to his ghostwriter that he knew he had classified documents. And also he had classified documents from his time in the United States Senate. When you're a president of the United States, you have ultimate authority over classification, declassification. Guess who doesn't have that power? Senators. So he was holding on to documents since his time in the Senate. So that is just what, I think the craziest thing about all this is Joe Biden had done something 1,000 times worse, yet the FBI only showed up at Mar-a-Lago.
And records from his time as vice president, again, as you rightly point out, vice presidents also do not have the authority to classify or declassify documents.
It only adds to the question surrounding whether or not Jack Smith's actions were politically motivated.
Yeah.
Which I think the answer is yes.
Of course. Okay. Migrant truck drivers are suing
California DMV.
Over canceled commercial driver's licenses, claiming they had been deprived of their rights and livelihoods. It comes as a wave of crashes caused by illegal migrant truck drivers have killed American drivers. Here to react, former acting DHS Secretary and AFPI Executive Vice President Chad Wolf. Good morning, Chad. I was just showing that wall, the list of crashes, and the list starts over there on the left side, the crash in Florida where Harjinder Singh, an Indian national, does the U-turn, kills 3, and then come all the way across on the right side of your screen. Those last 2, you see Isan Huang and Kamal Preet Singh. That's a Chinese national that was caught and released in 2023 in San Diego, and Kamal Preet Singh was apprehended in Lukeville, Arizona. This is why you have Transportation Secretary Duffy leaning so hard into this over canceled commercial driver's licenses, claiming they have been deprived of their rights and livelihoods. It comes as a wave of crashes caused by illegal migrant truck drivers have killed American drivers. Here to react, former acting DHS Secretary and AFPI Executive Vice President Chad Wolf. Good morning, Chad. I was just
Ilhan Omar's excuse me, husband and his $30 million firm quietly scrubs names from website. So their names. Huh. Interesting. Huh. Muslim man says Sharia law will come to every nation on earth. Oh yeah, they all think this.
Do you think at some point there's going to be Sharia law everywhere?
100%. This is my goal and every Muslim's goal.
And do you think
establish Sharia law on earth? Okay,
but when there is Sharia law on earth, then somebody like me should be killed? Because I am a murtad.
It's up to the Amir.
But it's under Islamic law, it says that I should be killed. So you think that's okay?
In the Sharia law, that's what I follow.
But do you think that's fair for me? Like, let's say you're right, I'm wrong. Do you think it's fair to kill me because I got the conclusions right or wrong?
If Sharia law states that, then it should be fair for me. There's always a safe haven for you under Sharia law.
No, because you said Sharia law on everywhere on earth, so there's not going to be any safe haven for me. If Islam dominates all of Earth,
that's the plan. And you
that's the plan. So where would be my safe haven?
In Islam.
But that would be by force then, wouldn't it? If my only safe haven is by Islam, and if I don't go back to Islam, punishment is death.
So there's 2 choices: Islam or death.
Wow.
Chicago officials are sounding the alarm ahead of New Year's Eve. Law enforcement agencies warning this week that large celebrations, including fireworks events, could be an attractive target for terrorists, saying there are no specific threats, but they are monitoring risks such as vehicle ramming attacks or the use of drones. And in New Orleans, city officials are requesting heightened security after the FBI stopped a threat targeting Border Patrol agents. Authorities say the suspect is allegedly affiliated with an extremist group known as Turtle Island Liberation.
Oh, the Tilps.
Front, the same group tied to an alleged New Year's Eve bomb plot in Southern California. 4 alleged members of the group have been charged with conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction, providing and attempting to provide material support to terrorists, and possession of unregistered firearms. According to court documents, the defendants described plans they intended to implement following the New Year's Eve bombings, including their plans to target U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents, and vehicles with firearms and pipe bombs to take some of them out and scare the rest of them. And overseas, 7 countries are canceling their New Year's Eve plans, citing safety concerns. Let's bring in retired NYPD officer.
Powerful 7.0 earthquake hits Taiwan. Oh. Trump is taking no days off at Mar-a-Lago. Meeting scheduled for tomorrow with Zelensky.
and several high-stakes meetings. Madison Scarpino's in West Palm Beach, Florida, where the weather's probably a little better than here in the Northeast. Hi, Madison.
Hi, Mike. Yeah, it is sunny and beautiful here in Florida, and the president is taking advantage of the nice weather over the last few days at his golf course, but his agenda remains top of mind, and it's going to be a busy next few days of foreign policy meetings at Mar-a-Lago. Tomorrow, we're expecting Ukrainian President Zelensky to visit. The two presidents are set to discuss a U.S.-backed peace plan with hopes of ending the years-long Russia-Ukraine war. Zelensky seems to be pleased with this peace plan that includes demilitarized zones and U.S. security guarantees. But President Trump is reportedly saying Zelensky does not have anything until he approves it. And many are hesitant that Russian President Vladimir Putin will be on board.
Putin doesn't want to end the war. He doesn't want peace. He wants Ukraine. The only way he doesn't restart the war when Trump is gone is if there are strong security guarantees in place. And Trump is helping them craft that.
And then on Monday, we're expecting a visit from Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu. We expect the Prime Minister.
Okay. Trump and Hegseth are infuriating Maduro. They're seizing more oil tankers. Oh boy.
Seizing oil tankers is the latest strategy in the Trump administration's campaign against Venezuela.
I gotta go fetch my tea. How about that?
Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro, whom they see as leading an illegitimate regime. The seizures are on top of the Trump administration's blockade of sanctioned oil tankers going in and out of Venezuela. Altogether, the actions pose a significant threat to one of Maduro's crucial financial lifelines. He has for years relied on these shadow tankers to help him stay in power. The administration maintains the targeting of oil tankers is linked to their anti-drug efforts in the Caribbean.
We're also sending a message around the world that the illegal activity that Maduro is participating in cannot stand. He needs to be gone, and that we will stand up for our people. They're using these dollars to funnel and purchase and proliferate drugs around the world that's killing the next generation of Americans.
Russia and China are watching all of this very closely. Russia relies on shadow tankers to transport their oil shipments, and China is one of the top importers of Venezuelan oil. So unsurprisingly, they're condemning the United States. But there's a split on Capitol Hill, too, where lawmakers are divided on whether the administration has the legal authority to seize the oil tankers or strike the alleged drug boats.
Let's see now. Andy Ogles on deporting people. Yeah, get them out.
I've had enough. I've said it once, and I'll say it again. Deport them all.
Yep.
This is our country.
Yep.
We get to decide who comes in, and we get to decide who has to leave. And I say deport them all. 90% that have come into this country are from third world countries, most of which are sucking resources from American citizens, burdening our cities. They do not belong here. I've had enough. I've said it once.
That's simple.
Once the VHA reorg is, in the can, what's left to do? It's such a huge bureaucracy. I'm sure the to-do list never ends.
It doesn't. And then now we get into different things that are more,
the VA.
More internal focus for what we do internally on how we do things. One of the big things that we're looking at next is how our disability claims if somebody is denied a claim because it wasn't service related or they felt like they were wrong, they have an appeals process. And unfortunately, our appeals process is backed up and could be backed up for years. One of the things we're going to be doing is looking at how our Board of Veteran Appeals and BVA work together. We're going to synchronize that to where people can get better answers quicker to the questions that they have. That's a big issue for us. Hiring, internal hiring, we hire all the time. But yet it takes us, because we developed this sort of Byzantine system of how we hire, it takes us longer to hire people than it should, especially compared to our peers in the healthcare industry. So we're working on those kind of things as well. And our construction issues, we add layers upon layers of bureaucratic issues on top of our construction projects, which add hundreds of millions of dollars, and we're working to clean those up as well. So it's never a dull day.
Okay. All right. Back in 2008, Senator Al Franken, Minnesota, was first elected by a 312 vote margin. In 2008, 542,257 people registered to vote on Election Day. Huh? Nearly 19% of all Minnesota voters registered to vote on Election Day in 2008? What? That... Yeah, what? I mean, definitely sounds pretty wild, like, first glance. I'd have to, like, do some napkin math on population that would be coming of age, and, like, I don't know. It does sound like too much. Weird. Here, the blue states blocking Trump's popular tax cut provision. Well, California, Illinois, Michigan, New York. Yep, New York, Illinois, California. And two Michigans probably in the mix. They had a picture of her, so. Had a picture of the hag. ICE has announced they're shifting resources to Somali hotbeds. Yes. Carrying out raids in Minneapolis as well as Columbus, Ohio. Get them out.
What's the latest you're seeing there in the Buckeye State?
Well, we were able to kick this operation off on December 16th. And with this operation, we've had a lot of success very quickly. Our officers have gone out and truly arrested the worst of the worst. We've arrested gang members, murderers, and rapists. We've arrested people with sex crime charges. We've arrested people with DWI charges. And we've been able to go after these people that have been in this country illegally. They have taken advantage of the system here in Ohio, and we're putting a stop to that, allowing us to go after the worst of the worst who have been embedded themselves in these communities near Columbus, Ohio.
The Columbus mayor...
They don't look Somalian.
...is protesting. I want to play a clip from him.
Maybe they haven't done this. They haven't done the shift yet.
I'll get you to react.
Our police will not be used to carry out these operations. Columbus is already safe without federal intervention. Please take care of one another and know that your community leaders see and support you.
Who said anything about safe or unsafe? At this point, it's just, they gotta fucking go.
What's your response to him?
They don't belong here and they need to leave.
And is his protest causing you any issues?
Safety or not?
Well, So look, we will continue to go into cities no matter if the locals want to work with us or not. Sanctuary cities policies, leaders who don't want to work with ICE is not going to deter ICE from doing our job. We want to walk beside law enforcement officers to allow them to go after the worst of the worst, the people that have been wrecking havoc in their communities. Now, if the city of Columbus doesn't work with us, well, that's not going to stop us from going in and removing these criminals who have wreaked havoc on the American people for far too long.
Indeed. Goodbye. Bon voyage. Have a nice trip. Don't come back. Oh, okay. China discovers a 100 million ton oil field in the Bohai Sea. I don't know if that's big or not, or what. Sounds big. Let's see. Okay, well, it's dwarfed by the Saudis. The water field holds a staggering amount of oil, roughly 6.5 billion tons with a B. I'm sure that's I mean, I'm curious how that. I wonder how that compares to the second place, but I bet that's by far the biggest. Freaking Saudis. Money just sit on a giant money printing machine. It's ridiculous. Crazy. All right, Michigan House Oversight Committee hearing. Dana Nessel's wife had a criminal referral for NGO fraud and breaking campaign donations finance laws. AG Dana Nessel called the Michigan Secretary of State and asked for the charges to be dropped. Nessel actually called Secretary of State Jocelyn Benson to take back a criminal referral, which isn't legal, and Benson agreed to do it. What a frick, dude. The collusive act. That's one department head calling the other department head saying, hey, I need your department to act the way I want, so potentially my wife doesn't get prosecuted. Wow. Russia attacked Kiev and other parts of Ukraine with reportedly hundreds of missiles and drones. Yeah, right as this crucial meeting is set to be happening. Yeah. Oh boy. Oh, hold on. Aftermath. Hey, buddy. That's a boo-boo. Man, they must have some old school cameras. Look at that shit. Got that. What do you call that? That CRT monitor effect. All the horizontal lines from interlacing. It's so cool. Those cameras are becoming desirable now. All the old early TV cameras, like the look at this thing. Thing's pretty badass. These old like pro camcorders from the late 80s use tubes. Yeah, you can rent them out for money now. Like, you can, crazy. You can make money with them. Bonkers. Because the look is becoming so desirable. You can't fake it. I mean, you can, but it's not the same. Look at this thing.
Portable color TV camera was born and where the ENG era got its start.
Nostalgia overload.
Ikegami now brings you the ITC 730A, a truly professional, low-cost ENG EFT camera designed to give you many years of unexcelled performance in the studio and on location.
Are replacement tubes available? Oh, you bet. Yeah, a shitload of them.
Let's take a
never-ending supply, probably.
Of the ITC 730A with our guide, Terry. By the way, our tour is being recorded using Ikegami's legendary HL79. Let's start with the
although that might change if these start getting used again.
3 2/3-inch Satacon 2 tubes, which are coupled with the high-speed f1.4 beam splitter prism. Add advanced Ikegami.
So cool. Oh, here's a test. Here's a modern test. Give us a quick test. Look at it. See those light trails? That shifting a color. Can't fake it. Not convincingly. Oh, it's so cool. You had to like, there were dials on these things where you had to like adjust the different color fields to like make sure they were aligned. That's such a cool look. Pretty neat. Pretty wild, yeah. I don't know how much they rent that thing for, but pretty crazy. What's old is new again. Lara Trump on Carolyn Levitt pregnancy. What, oh, she pregnant again?
Caroline Levitt is a machine. She's incredible, and she's going nowhere. For the people, I've seen some stories.
Yeah, wow, I guess so. Congrats to her.
Out there, Lisa, people saying, who's next in line? Nobody's next in line. It's Caroline. She can do everything. She did this, by the way, during the Trump campaign. She was pregnant and delivered her son Nico and then was back to work within a couple of days on television fighting to ensure that President Trump got elected. But she's amazing. And listen, we love babies. President Trump loves babies. He has really fostered the most pro-family, pro-child environment, I think, in the White House. And certainly I can speak to our campaign offices. But, you know, back whenever he was running for president in 2024, you would show up at the campaign offices. People would have their kids there a lot of times, myself included, because he understood that it was important for people to be able to spend time with their families as well as get their job done. And you go to the White House, Susie Wiles talked about this when I interviewed her back in the spring. She said, look, we try to schedule staff meetings so that the parents have an opportunity to maybe drop their kids at school in the morning, wake their children up, spend that quality time with them, because we understand how important it is. But from the perspective of what he's done as president, this president has also shown how much he loves babies. Obviously, most pro-life president in American history. But, you know, you look at things like increasing the child tax credit. You look at the Trump accounts, Lisa. This president wants to ensure more babies in America. We know Elon's talked about how we're going to be in a bit of a pickle if we don't get more babies coming into this country and more people having babies. And he's certainly shown it with his policies. He wants safety and security for every child all around this country, no matter where you're growing up. He wants to give them a leg up for their, you know, for their future with these Trump accounts. And I think this is great news. We love to see it. And I'll tell you what, we're all going to be watching as Caroline Levitt absolutely schools the fake news media while she's probably 8 and 9 months pregnant coming up. She's incredible. And
indeed, need more than babies. Wow. MS Now guest Yusra El-Bagir downplays Christian persecution in Nigeria. I wonder what her motivation could be for doing that.
the Nigerian government has come out and acknowledged publicly that they were working with the U.S. In these strikes, that there was security cooperation. But their officials have also had to reiterate that they are not focusing on the protection of one religious group over the other. The Nigerian government has insisted that Christians are not being disproportionately targeted by terrorists in Nigeria, and the data just doesn't back that up either. Trump has been repeating these claims, appearingly to appease his far-right Christian, evangelical Christian base, who have long condemned
MS now, man.
The targeting of Christians in Nigeria. But
BS now.
Having been in Nigeria and been in communities that are targeted by Boko Haram and by ISWAP, I've seen for myself that these communities are often Muslim, that there's no discrimination between Christians and Muslims. And just on Christmas Eve, a bomb exploded in a mosque in Maiduguri, the capital of Borno State, killing at least 5 people who were there to worship.
Nigerian foreign minister. Strikes coordinated with the U.S. It's not about religion. Well, it's not, but it is.
All right, enjoying
It's like 13 minutes long. We'll skip that. Okay. Fight in the area is not about religion. It is about Nigerians, innocent civilians, and the wider region as a whole. Terrorists are being targeted, and who are the terrorists targeting? I wonder. Could it be Christians? Yep. I don't, to be fair, I don't think it's just Christians. I think they're probably targeting plenty of other people too. But still. House Oversight Committee asking U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent to look into a Somali-American-led company that was previously linked to possible Medicare fraud in Maine. Which one? Gateway Community Services.
A Somali-led health services contractor is now under fire from the House Oversight Committee after a whistleblower made accusations of widespread fraud. That investigation now leading to new sanctions inside of Maine, cutting off some Medicaid payments, and now calls for Treasury Secretary Bessent to authorize the release of relevant bank records. News Nation's reporting is now being credited with shining a light on this scandal. Here's what Republican Congressman James Comer had to say about wanting more whistleblowers to come forward to expose fraud.
Is any of you out there happen to be aware of Somali communities of significant size near you that might be engaged in the same thing? Almost certainly are engaged in the same thing, I'd say. Where else are these people lurking this country at? Where else are they populating? In Minnesota's the big one, I guess, but I know there's other places. Like, we have a bunch of them around here. Where do you find that data? Well, AI. Where are the top? Let's see. We'll do. I have the top 10 largest. Migrant communities. We want fresh off the boat. Ah, there we go. Go AI. Actually doing something good.
Who knows how long that would have taken researching manually. Okay. Minneapolis, obviously number 1. St. Paul, known as Little Mogadishu. Yeah. Columbus, Ohio, number 2. Okay. Seattle, Washington, sliding in at number 3. Well, and that's a pretty significant one, too. That's certainly not quite as bad as the others, but I guarantee you that same shit's going on in a place like Washington. Then California, San Diego, Atlanta. See, told you, DC. They're all over the place here. Obnoxious. Most obnoxious people. I'm not surprised by that. Freaking DC Metro, Arlington, and Alexandria. Yep. These are much smaller still, but I guarantee you these populations are engaged in significant fraud too. It is a hallmark of their so-called culture. So, Portland, Maine, Buffalo, New York, Kansas City, and Omaha, Nebraska. Well, I'm going to see what I can find around here. Shit. I doubt it's going to be nearly as bad as, Minnesota, obviously, just by numbers alone, but also just considering Virginia was under Republican rule for the last 4 years, so I would imagine things like this were not being actively implemented to the extent they would be under, well, the incoming governor, Spanberger, so there's going to be plenty to look at in the coming year. Yeah, I'm not looking forward to that bitch. All right, let's see.
First of all, I applaud News Nation for doing some tremendous investigative reporting. That's what we need for our congressional investigation to be successful. We have to have a curious media. We have to have whistleblowers, and we have to have documents turned over. And we've got whistleblowers coming forward. We welcome more whistleblowers in more states to come forward and reach out to the House Oversight Committee.
And News Nation's Rich McHugh is live with the very latest. So, Rich, what happens now?
Hi, Nicole. So, as you put it, there are two headlines here. One is federal, and one is from the state at the state level. On the federal level, the Health and Human Services, or House Oversight Committee, rather, has new scrutiny on this group in Maine. They're asking the Secretary of Treasury to essentially tell them if there are suspicious activity reports related to Gateway. These are reports that are produced by banks when they flag transactions for possible fraud and money laundering. And after weeks of silence, the state of Maine Department of Health and Human Services has shut off Medicaid payments to Gateway, the Somali American-led health services contractor at the heart of all this in Maine. After a whistleblower, Chris Bernardini, told us taxpayers have been bilked out of millions from the state's Medicaid program there. He says they charge taxpayers for providing services that were never performed.
In your professional opinion, what you saw was fraud? Absolute. No doubt about it. No doubt about it.
Two different state audits covering the 2015 to 2018 years found that Gateway overbilled the state $662,000, and the state issued Gateway 2 formal violation notices. But according to the Maine Department of Health and Human Services, they're still trying to recoup over $500,000 of that from Gateway. After our story aired, Gateway called the allegations false. Today, in a statement, they write, Gateway was notified of the state's decision earlier this week and is investigating and gathering information. Gateway stands by its previous statements on these allegations and will continue to cooperate with all oversight agencies as it has done in the past. And important to note, in the House oversight demands for certain banking reports, they list as persons of interest the company's founder and CEO, Abdullahi Ali, the Somali American who, while at the time serving as executive director for Gateway, last year ran for president, which is essentially governor of Jubaland, a state in Somalia's south of borders Kenya. Also listed, former assistant executive director and current U.S. state representative for Maine, Deka Dalak. Neither have responded to our request for comment. We've also reached out repeatedly for comment to Janet Mills, the governor.
Oh, interesting. Mark Wayne Mullen continuing his tours of hidden DC, places where normal people don't get to go.
This is really cool. As you're going down the stairs, you'll see a wall that a bunch of people have signed. A few people that have visited before you here. If you can make out the signature here, that's Sly Stallone.
What? I'm signing by him.
We have Lizzo up here.
I don't know who that is.
Ew.
Current popular music artist. And you might know Nikki Hilton also.
No, I know who Paris Hilton is. I don't have a pen. Anybody got a pen? No. I have an opportunity to sign by Sloan, and I don't have anything.
This is another place
Oof.
that only special guests and visitors get to go.
I'm feeling special.
He is special.
All right, we've got to be kind of quiet when we go outside. You'll see why in a little bit.
This. Whoa.
This is really cool.
Neato. Yeah, National
I've
Treasure.
been into a lot of federal buildings around the world. Nothing I've ever seen compares to this.
That's
And I
very
mean,
deliberate.
The library's stunning building.
We were showing what a great thing that America can produce in the late 1800s. So we were feeling a little young, a little unproven. So we wanted to build this magnificent temple to learning and knowledge to show how great America is.
It is where, I mean, I am stunned. This is something else. This is something, this is special.
Stained glass windows.
Yes.
They have the federal eagle and shield in the middle, flanked by
Wow.
the shields of the states. And that starts with Delaware and the alcove next to us here. Continues around the order, around the room, and the order of the state joined the Union.
Wow.
These are shields from every state. What's interesting is that
Do they have any empty space for
it says 1890
like future states?
over it. So that wasn't a state at that time, that was our territory. And that's the first time I've ever seen, or the territory shield for Oklahoma.
Huh.
I've never seen that before.
Wow.
For our history buffs that's going to watch this, I'd like to know if you've ever seen that, because that was the first time I've seen it.
How cool. So the field for Oklahoma from back when it was a territory, U.S. territory, is still up there. How cool. There it is, right there. Come on, give me a sharp frame. There we are. How interesting. I love fascinating trivia like that. Tell you though, they should be doing a better job at documenting this.
It's really cool.
Like, what? You really doing a vertical cell phone, like, kind of for real? I mean, I know everyone watches on social media now, but come on. I want a wide vista, okay, in a building like that.
Gotta ask the question.
Yeah.
Where's the National Treasure book?
Where's the National Treasury book? You know, because it's important. Does it exist, first of all?
It was right here.
And it did exist?
It does exist. The library helped create the item for the movie, suggesting
Oh, it was
that each
created
president
for the
might have put
movie.
into the book. Disney hired handwriting experts to recreate the handwriting of the president to put it into the book. And then our conservation division advised on how to age the item to make it look like it was 200 some years old. And then
Holy
they let us
guacamole.
put it on display here at the library.
And it's
for
good
about
strawberries.
So
6
which
months after.
area was it supposed to be at?
The shelf is right here.
This is it right here?
This was it right here.
In this spot?
Yep.
That and Smokey and the Bandit and Rocky and Rambo, I watch over and over and over again.
And then as they're running away from the FBI, they went down through the door that's in the side of the desk there and ran down underneath to escape out the loading dock.
I've got to say, I have been into a lot of federal buildings.
Rocky and Rambo. That's good fun. Those are fun movies. National Treasure movies. Oh, Mike Benz has been busy. A couple hours ago, my walkthrough of an incredible documentary about how USAID funds mercenary media outlets like the OCCRP to go after the Blom's political enemies. What
OCCRP.
What documentary is this?
Is the largest investigative reporting organization on Earth. It's the first global investigative reporting organization. We have editors.
The first global corruption reporting organization. Because it's not. It's just a State Department operation. It's just a global State Department operation.
Well, who made the documentary? I want to know.
It's a Mockingbird media in the truest form. This is
did they make it about themselves?
Bought and paid for. These are prostitutes in the pay of USAID. I was going to say same shit, different toilet, but it's actually just the same toilet. Prostitutes embedded in the pay of the CIA/USAID.
Yep, same toilet. It's just a really, really big toilet.
All continents. We have staff on all continents.
Auch deutsche Medien arbeiten mit OCCRP zusammen.
And so everything from Panama Papers to the Laundromat to the Pegasus Project all had significant OCCRP reporters.
How about that?
You know, what's really interesting is they mentioned Der Spiegel here. Because Der Spiegel has been going hard after Elon Musk. So I wonder, is Der Spiegel working with, or is it cited by? Maybe they're cited by? Of course, Der Spiegel is like a pass-through of this CIA propaganda. Look at the things that they show here. Russian asset tracker. Russian assets in all these different countries. Can you imagine if they turned around and tracked American assets? They're going after the enemies of the American state while masquerading as domestic journalists in Romania, domestic journalists in Georgia, domestic journalists in Ukraine.
We've been responsible for $10 billion being returned to government coffers from organized crime and corrupt people.
$10 billion. So that is a much larger number, actually, than the $4.5 billion cited on USAID, but this was in 2022. So I guess they've doubled that number since 2024, because this was slated to come out in the summer of 2024 in this USAID document. So how many arrests do you think they're up to now?
UCRP. So who did this documentary on the CRP? Oh, this might be it. Is that it? No. I don't know. Interesting, though.
You know, huge amounts of money. And
Dalek.zone. Here we go. Okay. Interesting. So the documentary was by NDR, the public broadcaster for Germany. And apparently it was leaked. Documentary was leaked. Never published by NDR. What the shit? How interesting. I mean, I have to assume that that's it. Yep, Dalek.zone. That's it. There it is.
Ist vielleicht einer der Einfluss.
NDR, Germany's public broadcaster, is facing a censorship scandal and has defended itself by saying it never killed a news report about the OCCRP and its State Department funding because no report was ever produced to kill. That was absurd, and dozens, maybe hundreds of journalists knew it to be false because, of course, it would have taken a shitload of people to produce a well-researched news documentary. I mean, the number of people that do different things that go into that, it would have been a team of, yeah, probably close to like 100 people for a big outfit like NDR. Do they? I wonder if they include the credits. No, they don't include the credits. Yeah, those are probably not done yet. It's amazing that someone had it and leaked it, though. How fascinating. I gotta tag that. Okay.
And we've probably, over that same time period.
Now that's, another thing that's interesting about that is he says $10 billion being returned to government coffers. Is that what he said? We've been responsible for $10 billion being returned to government coffers. Who's government?
Oh, hey, by the way, if you are watching on YouTube, or if you're not watching on YouTube, you should be at least popping over to YouTube. Hit the thumbs up, please. I always forget to say that. I'm just so not used to it after all these many years of, not being on the platform. I always forget. So, for once, I'm remembering. Please hit the thumbs up. We got actually quite a good number of people tuned in right now. 80 or so people. Is relatively high for the average over the last month or so. So please hit the thumb up. We got, what, 40 thumbs up. A lot better than that. Especially if some of you pop over from other platforms and help out a little bit. All right, let's keep going here. Pretty fascinating. We'll keep going for a few minutes and then we'll keep moving. I know there's more to get to.
Who's seizing these assets? I mean, think about that. They're being paid by the government. And they're bragging that they have resulted in the transfer of $10 billion from private citizens to the government. Pretty good return on investment for the government to pay for its mercenary media.
Being returned to government coffers from organized crime and corrupt people.
Now, people you are alleging are organized crime and corrupt because they are opponents of the State Department. And you have self-styled yourself as a corruption investigator so that everyone in your crosshairs can be construed that way so that you have a predicate to take their assets and neutralize them politically.
Huge amounts of money. And we've probably, over that same...
Gee, silver's up another 10% today alone? Sorry, I keep
time period, maybe...
I want you out there on YouTube saying needed a break from silver stacker rejoicing vids. Wow. I wish I could say that I was invested. I don't have money. Haven't anyway. Until relatively recent. I could invest now, but I don't know that I want to. Should I? I don't know. Silver can be volatile. It's at least sorta compared to gold. But I mean, the trend for the last last 5 years has been, certainly the last 2 has been just, I don't know, man. I don't know. I feel like maybe Bitcoin might be a better way to go right now. I think the bear market's probably gonna break soon. I don't know, man. I would like to plunk a little bit down.
$50 million has been spent over our whole history of what we're doing. So if you look at 50 million versus 10 billion, that's a tremendous, that's a 200-time increase in the amount of money that we've brought back.
Isn't that amazing? That is literally what I started off the stream by juxtaposing. $4.5 billion in fines and monies seized. That's an incredible return on investment. They turned 20 million into 4.5 billion because the investigative journalist hit pieces allow them to take criminal action or civil action, resulting in $4.5 billion. That's an incredible return on investment. In 2022, it was a 20 million investment that had netted 4.5 billion. And I remarked at what an incredible return on investment that was. By 2024, it appears to have mushroomed up to 50 million and gotten 10 billion. So the very thing I started out with, without even watching this video, is the very thing the guy working at the organization being funded by the State Department brags is an incredible return on investment for whoever's sponsoring him, which we now know is the U.S. government.
Of course.
I mean, imagine if my...
Man, I want to watch that leaked documentary later. Tagged it, so maybe we'll check it out after this. We run out of material. Nancy Pelosi didn't initially aspire to a political career, but she grew up in Little Italy, watching her totally not mafia daddy serve in Congress. Yeah. And as Baltimore's mayor, before going to college, moving to San Francisco, and later becoming the first woman to serve as U.S. House Speaker.
Baltimore, my Baltimore. I'm so proud of growing up there, and it served me so well in my life in terms of values, in terms of sense of community.
Yeah, I bet them connections really helped out.
And of course, in politics, I learned a lot about how to win elections.
Oh, I bet you did.
But hardly anybody hears me speak these days in this troubled times.
Learned how to get dirty, I bet.
That we're in, that I don't take pride in the fact that I tell them I grew up in Little Italy in Baltimore, not that far from Fort McHenry, where the national anthem was written during the War of 1812. And the line that I say I cheer the most for and soonest for is proof through the night that our flag was still there. So much of that springing from Baltimore, my Baltimore.
Range. Okay, a complaint. Excuse me. A complaint was just filed to the Hawaii State Elections Commission, where their Office of Elections owes the federal government $30 million plus interest. How'd that happen? Office of Election has been taking federal HAVA monies. I don't know. I don't remember what that is. Yet they never had the mandatory state implementation plan in compliance, nor did they ever update it, nor have they been following the mandatory HAVA federal statutes. Chief Elections Officer Scott Nago even admitted he permits the state's 4 counties to run elections their own way, another violation. Wow. Mr. Nago has permitted the counties to not save election records of federal elections. What? Including from the most recent one, November 5th, 2024, another violation. Yet the Hawaii Office of Elections was happy to take tens of millions of dollars in funding from HAVA while not implementing any of it. Any of the requirements. US DOJ can claw back $1 billion plus from states not following HAVA. The law is heavily in their favor. In fact, it's mandatory. Interesting. Excuse me. Gen Z in the top... Oh, is the top church attending age group in the United States as of 2025. What?
And millennials have been fed the lie of socialism, and socialism is basically anti-God. And they've been turned off, I think, by this, and they're asking themselves, there's got to be something more. And so, yes.
Okay, so by sheer number, which would make sense because older generations die. But I mean, even compared to millennials, and who haven't reached that that stage of life yet where large numbers are starting to pass away. There's still out doing millennials. That's good. Okay. Verified this. It's 100% accurate. This is December 2025 Center for Immigration Studies official data. For when? December 2020. I mean, it can't be for December because December's not over. So I wonder when it's sourced from. 81% of Somali households in Minnesota are on government welfare. 73% are on Medicaid. 54% are on food stamps. 27% on cash welfare. 89% of Somalian households with children are on welfare. By comparison, only 21% of native-born American citizen Minnesota households use any of these programs. That is bonkers. It makes so many things start to add up. How shitty things have gotten in this country. How cost of living's through the fucking roof. Owning a home is just not feasible for all too many people my age and younger. It all starts to make sense when you realize this is going on all over the place. Rep. Mike Lawler demands Congress force Tim Walz to testify before Congress after Nick Shirley exposes Somali fraud in Minnesota. Will we see it actually happen? Nice. Love to see that moron dragged in front of a hearing and forced to testify. All right, what's this here?
He taught in China from 89 to 90.
Examining Waltz's background. Yeah, he did teach in China. Yep. Not his only China connection. I think he maintained it to this day.
He visited the country 30 times. He got married on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre. He honeymooned in China. And to your point, he promoted Chinese communism as a teacher to his American students. So I think what this does, Governor, is it begs the question, is Tim Walz a national security risk?
Absolutely. I'm 100% convinced he's a national security risk. This man wants America to grow up and be more like China, which is the exact opposite of what our leaders should be doing. I have spent all of my time fighting China, and for 30 years I've been working in policy on protecting our food supply, and we've seen China not only manipulate our currency, steal our IP, treat us unfairly in trade agreements, they've also spied on us. They've come in and they're taking and buying our land. I have banned them purchasing land and doing state contracts in South Dakota. The rest of the country needs to realize and wake up that we do not want a leader like Tim Walz and Kamala Harris in the White House because of how they would undermine our national security. It's a big concern, and I hope we start talking about it a little bit more, that you have to have people in the White House that truly want to protect us, protect our republic, and fight socialism, fight Marxism, fight communism. That's not Tim Walz.
Yep. Control. Time to rein that bullshit in. All right. Well, we got like 50 left here. Suppose we could go back to Mr. Benz. That OCCRP documentary. Although that might be boring. Let's see. Let's check out the first minutes of it. Where did that go? Oh no. How do I get to my bookmarks? Frick. That shit again? There we go. There it is.
ist vielleicht einer der einflussreichsten Journalisten
Oh no, it's all gonna be like German.
der Welt.
Right. I guess only the interview with this guy is gonna be in there. Who is this guy again? Was he?
Been responsible for $10 billion.
Auch deutsche Medien arbeiten mit OCCRP zusammen.
And so everything
Oh, it doesn't even have auto-translate. Boo.
from Panama Papers to the laundromat to the Pegasus Project all had significant OCCRP reporters. We've been responsible for $10 billion being returned to government coffers from organized crime and corrupt people. You know, huge amounts of money. And we've probably, over that same time period, maybe, you know, $50 million has been spent over our whole history of what we're doing. So if you look at 50 million versus 10 billion, you know, that's a tremendous, you know, that's a 200-time increase in the amount of money that we've brought back, you know. That's a 20,000% return on the dollar, you know. That's amazing. You know, I think as donors have realized this is really important, this is having impact, we've probably been responsible for about 5 or 6 countries changing over from one government to another government.
Whoa.
You know, because, and getting, you know, and people, you know, prime ministers indicted or thrown out. It's the most
Jeez, dude.
important investigative reporting
This was a good find by Mr. Benz.
organization you've never heard of.
Es ist nicht leicht, aufwendige Recherchen zu finanzieren.
Dang. I wish this was available in English. Wonder how far along AI dubbing tools are coming for translating and dubbing an English voice in place of the German. Could probably do it manually. Almost. I know I could do it manually. Like isolate each voice track and then translate the whole frickin' thing into English and have an AI voice read it out and then put it back in there. I could do it. It'd be a bit tedious, but I wonder how far the automated tools are coming with stuff like that. Well, let's keep going with Mr. Benz then. Okay. Let's keep checking some of that out. There were 2 of them. This is the first one. Okay. How USAID pays journalists to dig up dirt and cook up crimes on its enemies. Oh, it's them talking about the OCCRP thing. All right. So, I guess the same stuff.
OCCRP is...
All right, where were we here?
Huh. Makes you wonder about all the investigative journalism that was done on Donald Trump. That's being done on Marine Le Pen and Nigel Farage and Matteo Salvini and Jair Bolsonaro and Viktor Orban. How much of that dirt is just sponsored dirt by the blob?
Es ist nicht leicht, aufwendige Recherchen
That up until recently would have traced back to USAID in many cases.
zu finanzieren. Drew Sullivan hat ein innovatives Finanzierungsmodell erfunden. Seit der Gründung ist der größte Geldgeber von OCCRP die US-Regierung. Kaum bekannt ist bisher, wie eng die Verflechtung zwischen OCCRP und der US-Regierung ist. Sie hat zum Beispiel
I'm waiting for the English to come back.
Einfluss darauf, wer Verantwortung bei OCCRP trägt. Shannon McGuire
He's running into the same problem we did.
ist Programmmanagerin bei USAID. Die
Shannon
mächtige
McGuire, head of programming for USAID. Okay. Shannon McGuire, USAID. Oh, she was previously Air Force? Oh, this is interesting.
Arlington.
Democracy, Rights, and Governments. DRG. Exact place I keep talking about. Samantha Power. Oh my gosh. The woman they're trying to shoo into the head of Belarus. Okay, let's keep watching.
Entwicklungsbehörde, die auch Demokratieförderung betreibt. Sie ist zuständig für OCCRP bei der US-Regierung.
What is, as a program manager, what's entailed in a cooperative agreement for OCCRP? What do they need to give you, and like kind of what are the things?
There's something called, there's a substantial involvement clause in cooperative agreement. So specifically for this cooperative agreement with OCCRP, it's things like reviewing and approving an annual work plan. There's key personnel if OCCRP.
Reviewing and approving an annual work plan and key personnel. So these independent journalists who are getting $10 billion worth of assets seized on behalf of the government and who have toppled 5 or 6 different elected governments need to have their whole work plan approved by USAID, what they publish about. Their key personnel have to be approved by the US government, USAID.
Needs to change key personnel, for example, the chief of party, which is Drew Sullivan.
Whether or not we need to change key personnel, this is all top-down approved or vetoed by the US government. The largest media consortium on earth.
Then they submit a request with a resume, and we review it and say, okay, this, we approve your nominee for a new chief of party or whoever it is listed in the key personnel.
Drew Sullivan hat uns viel Zeit für ein Interview gegeben und wir wollen viele offene Fragen klären. Journalismus und Regierungspolitik, wie passt das zusammen? Wie bekommt er die Balance hin?
In the interview, with I think Shannon, she said that, and also in cooperative agreements, we know that it's common that you have a clause that USAID must sign off on key personnel. Could you walk us through that process? Like how do you do that?
Under cooperative agreements, which we don't like to take, that they have, a say on who the people are. But they can veto somebody. If they veto somebody, then we can say we don't take the money.
But you do take the money. This document right here on USA.gov shows $20 million worth of money just from USAID. So you do take the money.
They've never vetoed anybody, we've never had a problem with this, and they know this ahead of time. I mean, we're very clear about this, and on top of it, we still have an agreement that they cannot interfere with the editorial, content in any way, shape, or form.
They don't need to because they pick the personnel, and you know not to hire someone who they might not like. And they know that your editorial content will be in line because you get annual funding from them every year.
Right.
So if you were to take an editorial line opposed to U.S. government interests, or not even U.S. government interests, right? This is a rogue faction within the U.S. government. These are the same people who indicted Donald Trump and who arrested Donald Trump. Yep. The Blob. If you do not conform your editorial line to what the Blob wants, you won't get funding next year. And it's a whole lot of matzah. Tens of millions of dollars. They said they've gotten 50 million by 2024.
So you guys get it from a fee that is put on your behalf by the government. We get it more directly from that, but we both have editorial independence, and that's something that we're proud of, and and I'm happy to give back money to donors who don't agree on it. And I know when I'm being influenced. I know when somebody wants to control something in my structure. I know when there's pressure, and we're not going to tolerate it. We have we've won over 100 major awards because of integrity and because of the quality of the work.
Oh, integrity, that lovely word. Like the Integrity Initiative, like information integrity. Incredible. Boy, the only way to win an award for integrity in the journalist space is if you are an #1 primo wabu. What's like the best steak? Like if you were like the best, the most crooked journalist, that's like the only way. Yeah, Transition Integrity Project. I mean, that's the watchword for Blobcraft. Integrity. I mean, just imagine any other standard. Imagine if the Russian Federation was paying the Washington Post, and the Russian Federation had, Wagyu, thank you. And the Russian Federation had to approve and had a veto right of all key personnel at the Washington Post. And the Washington Post received $50 million from the Russian Federation. And then their little head honcho gets on TV and at the Washington Post says, oh, no. The Russian Federation doesn't interfere in our editorial. They don't change our editorial line. We just take tens of millions of dollars from them, and they control our personnel. We actually have to submit a work plan to the Russian Federation before we publish what's on the sports page. I mean, what a joke. I mean, you'd have to be psychotic, lobotomized, or completely asleep at the wheel for your entire waking life to buy one bag of bullshit this guy is selling.
That we do, and that's the rules that you have to have in this game. You have to, it's a very difficult thing to balance investigative reporting money from any donor, but especially government donors.
But do you think that the hundreds of journalists who proudly work for OCCRP, that they know that your top personnel has to be approved by the U.S. government, by USAID?
They may well know that, yes. I mean, they take grants from governments themselves, and they have similar types of requirements that they have to sometimes do, and everybody deals with it in the way they have to deal with it,
They may know it. Doesn't sound like they do know it. Sounds like some of them know it.
It's usually it's a chief of party, or it's a it's a somebody who's it's one or two positions at the top, which is usually our editors, and we try to protect everybody, in the organizations that partner with us from all this information.
Head scratch. Is it getting hot in here? It feels hot in here. Why does it feel hot in here? Is it? And by the way, did he say that only like the editors know that they're funded by the government, or only the editors have to deal with the U.S. government?
We try to keep them away from the donors as much as possible, so that they don't have to worry, and they don't have to deal with we're not always successful. There's always some embassy official from some country somewhere, seeking to do something. But, we've never had a problem where we have felt.
There's always an embassy official seeking to do something. You mean like the U.S. Embassy in Romania? The U.S. Embassy in Georgia? The U.S. Embassy in Ukraine? The U.S. Embassy in Moldova? There's always a U.S. Embassy official tailing us around, wanting us to do something. They are paying us half of our budget. We do have to submit for approval everyone who works here. Look at this. Look at how his confidence has just dwindled away. He can't make eye contact. He's scratching. He's itchy. Not a good look, dude.
Felt that we were under serious pressure, or even mild pressure, from a government.
Later, Bisracic arbeitet mit Drew Sullivan.
I also think it's funny that he says, we try to keep the reporters away from the donors. So everything's run through this small group. One or two or three editors or managers like him, and probably two or three of his lieutenants who do all of the U.S. government management. And they serve as the middleman between the packs of investigative reporters who all report to the editors, while the editors liaise with the U.S. government. And that's what's so funny, right? Because they're the editors. So they can change whatever the journalists actually report. If the journalists uncover corruption about Russian influence in Romania, but it smudges a little bit of dirt because of something they report on U.S. activity in the region, well, the beauty is they only report up to the editors. The editors, to please the donors, may decide to scrub something from that report. It's not relevant to the crux of the article.
Seit 2 Jahrzehnten zusammen und ist OCCRP-Partnerin in Bosnien.
If you are applying for a big grant multi-million-dollar grant, then USAID is approving chief of party and all the key positions within that grant. That is very common for all the USAID grants. Now, that is, when you think about the journalistic independence, that is problematic, because again, USAID is deciding upon people. Are they the best? I don't know. Are they just closer to heart of somebody in the U.S. administration? Possibly. He was always very close to USAID people in Washington.
He was always very close to USAID people. And again, guys, go back to our streams. 10 times USAID was busted as a CIA front, or everything else we've done on USAID, to understand the implications of this. We mentioned this was a cooperative agreement that the journalists have to sign with the U.S. government. Wow. So here is an example of a cooperation agreement with USAID and Burisma. Cooperation on implementation of information campaign within the framework of energy efficiency in Ukraine. October 2014, right after Hunter Biden joined the board of Burisma, and it is USAID's cooperation agreement with Burisma. And that's being signed with journalists here as well.
Mike Henning ist seit Jahrzehnten bei USAID für Demokratie und Förderung zuständig.
So basically there's sort of two main kinds of ways the U.S. government does foreign aid. One is through contracts, where we're very specific and directive, and the other is through assistance, which includes grants and cooperative agreements. Grants and cooperative agreements are basically very similar.
Notice how they're always fidgeting when they're talking about this stuff. It's always getting very hot in here. What is it? Is it hot in here? Feels hot in here. But this is what I love. This is what's so funny, right? Grants and contracts, right? This is bread and butter 101, right? How many hundreds of hours at this point have we spent on USAID, usaspending.gov, right? Which is the big grants and contracts database. And you'll see if you type something in, like, let's just say, like, you know, misinformation, right? And we just set a couple years, right? What you'll see is exactly what he's talking about here. The structure. There's two categories. There's contracts and grants. Right? Contracts and grants. Those are the two categories. That's what I spend a lot of my day in. But what's so funny is the cooperative agreement that he's talking about is basically just a contract for the grant, right? The grant comes with an agreement on the nature of what you are going to do. So a contract is money for services delivered. A grant is money. A cooperative agreement attached to the grant is effectively a subcontract. It's basically a contract on how you're going to use the grant money. Yeah. They all, none of them can make eye contact. All of them have to look away, and so funny.
And that they're kind of gifts that we give to an organization saying, you're doing a great thing, here's a gift of some resources, continue doing it. But you know,
if there's, why do you need an agreement then? You know, when my parents gave me bar mitzvah money when I was 13, that was a gift. It didn't come with a cooperation agreement about how I needed to be in bed by 10 p.m., how I had to limit my internet time, how I had to make sure to do 20 push-ups before I left my room. That's what a gift is. When there's an agreement attached to that gift, that is no longer a unilateral donation. That is an implied contract. But notice how they're so sheepish about this.
You know, for certain activities that we like that you're doing, and we want to see you continue those sorts of activities.
Why are you stuttering all of a sudden? Why are you suddenly stuttering? Do you know you're guilty? You can't even hide it? We need to hire better liars, you know? You're supposed to be a diplomat, man. You're supposed to be in diplomacy. looking away, can't make eye contact, stuttering, scratching themselves. How come none of these people can pull this off? Gosh. Where's the good old-fashioned sociopath? We used to have better, we're not sending our best.
So it has some strings attached. A cooperative agreement has more strings attached, let's say.
So it's not a gift. A cooperative agreement has more strings attached than a grant, but it's effectively still a grant. I mean, he's basically saying exactly what I just said right before he said it. You guys notice that once again, the antagonist of the story says exactly what I said minutes before he said it? He's acknowledging it's actually not really a gift. There are strings attached, but it's not as much as a contract.
Than a grant, but it's effectively still an assistance award. It's a gift to an organization to carry.
How is it effectively so? It's not effectively so. It's effectively a contract. This is hit pieces for hire.
Yeah.
Hit pieces for hire by the U.S. government.
It's nuts.
They need to contextualize it as a grant, because if it looks like a direct contract for services, then there's no fucking way you can call it independent journalism, because they're contracted by the U.S. government. But if we say, oh, it's a grant, not a contract, oh, but the grant is actually not a real grant, it's actually kind of like a contractual grant, because we're having them sign these cooperation agreements to cooperate with us on how they apply the grant proceeds. But yeah, GE Big D in the chat, 20,000 to 1 return on investment though, right? On a gift.
Carry out their program.
But I point this all out because it's important to understand the structuring of the lie. This is why they get so squeamish on this, because they know they have to make it look like a grant. And they're just funding people who they like, even though they're orchestrating it like a symphony director in the way you would if it was a contract for services. But if it was a contract, it would literally be hit pieces for hire. If it's a grant with contract-like qualities, but still a grant, then they can say, oh, no, we're just rewarding journalists.
And we like their program, we want to support it. So some of the strings that are attached in a cooperative agreement are approval of key personnel, approval of an annual work plan, approval of subgrants of a certain amount, above a certain amount. These are rather administrative things, but sometimes significant. And so, for example, OCCRP, which did not get a direct award in the beginning, so, but there were, let's say, a subgrantee, so the award that supported OCCRP, that subgrant to OCCRP would have to be approved by a USAID agreement officer representative or an agreement officer. And now that OCCRP is, I believe, getting a direct award from USAID, the key personnel would be at play. So, who's the editor-in-chief, or who's the CEO, who's the managing editor, et cetera. Those would be sort of a top tier of people that would be approved, and then also an annual work plan. Here's what we're going to do this year, and here's how we're going to do it. And the agency would have ability to question that and engage with the partner on that.
Everything they do for the entire year, all of their entire workload of what hit pieces they're going to publish about, has to be sent in advance to the U.S. government for approval about their entire annual work plan, what they're going to be publishing about, when they're going to do it, how they're going to do it. And this is a deliberative process. As he says, USAID, the CIA, gets to then engage with them and negotiate with them and make alterations to the annual work plan. And there's a back and forth so that they agree on exactly what targets of the U.S. government are going to be ruined in the press by this mercenary media for the state. But yes, JBP book list, exactly. This is why you have to understand They have to shriek the word independent media, independent media, independent media, independent media. Because it is so false. It is so diametrically the opposite that if they didn't emphasize it, you would see right through it and say, oh, these are just state media. This is state media. This is state media. So they have to say independent in order to stop you from closing the loop in your mind that, oh my God, this is literally just a CIA asset. There's nothing independent about it. Boy, this is good stuff. This is better than I thought. Open Society is a co-sponsor with USAID. Great catch there. Spiral. No surprises there if you watch my video on George Soros and the CIA. I think I reposted that this week. Open Society is a constant co-sponsor of USAID and NED. And of course, Soros publicly said that he built the Soros empire in the ashes of the Soviet empire.
When the Soviet Union, the Soviet Empire collapsed, and as the empire collapsed, I moved in and picked up the pieces. First in Hungary in 1984, and in Poland in 87. So this is how the Soros Empire was replacing the Soviet Empire.
And how do you think you're doing in your imperial ambitions?
Soros Inc. is a business enterprise that is built on seizing the assets of the Soviet Union. This is what Casino Moscow is about.
Wie bewerten das andere Journalisten? ProPublica in
ProPublica in
New York City. Sie haben zahlreiche Pulitzerpreise für ihre Arbeit gewonnen. Steve Engelberg ist der Chefredakteur.
I think at the point at which a funder has influence over the personnel who do the news, that is a very powerful lever, because we all know in journalism that a lot of what happens depends on who does it. Right? I mean, who's the editor? Who's the reporter? Who's the leader, right? You know, the preferences of that person are going to shape the coverage. So I think if you are worried about pleasing a funder, particularly a governmental funder, which has clear viewpoints on things, to me that would be a bit problematical. I would hope that that no independent organization allows itself to give a voice to a funder when one is deciding who's in charge or who writes the stories.
OCCRP betont, dass...
Okay, let's see what this says. In U.S. cooperative agreements, the government needs to know who will be overseeing the agreement. Cooperation agreements are competitively bid, and organizations seeking the grant must identify key personnel in their bid, provide their CV's technical skills, blah, 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 blah. Okay.
Das Vetorecht sei rein technischer Natur und ausschließlich für Managementfragen relevant. Die US-Regierung habe keinen Einfluss auf redaktionelle Entscheidungen.
By the way, on this note of George Soros Open Society being a co-sponsor of USAID, note that's the same thing. Here's a report that I wrote on Brazil in 2022. U.S. tax dollars funding text message censorship in Brazil. You'll notice the same thing. All of the censorship institutions in Brazil, they're co-funded by USAID, the National Endowment for Democracy, NDI is the DNC branch of that, and George Soros. Constant companions, because Soros Inc. is a donor and drafter off of U.S. statecraft. Soros invests funds in the government operation. The U.S. government topples the government or gets a law passed in a foreign country that Soros Inc. does business in. And Soros Inc. portfolio companies make the profits the same way USAID does here. You invest $20 million, you get $4.5 billion because of all of the contracts you get from the new government, or all the approvals you get, or all the business interests that are cleared by having a new puppet who's put in power.
Drew Sullivan legt großen Wert darauf, nicht nur von einem großen Geldgeber abhängig zu sein.
Wait, and let's pull up that bio on... That's so funny. Drew Sullivan, a social entrepreneur, co-founder and publisher of Rosie CRP, founded in 2007. Bosnia-Herzegovina. So he descended on the ashes of Yugoslavia after the U.S. government overthrew it in 1999. He created Reporter Shield that helps defend investigative journalism against lawsuits. I wonder if that gets U.S. government funding too. A legal defense fund for their hit piece journalists. Like if they get something wrong and they're hit with defamation lawsuits, I wonder if the U.S. is also paying for a legal defense fund for their state media assets. Oh, and look at that. It wouldn't be a censorship industry annotated stream without, where did he go to school? Texas A&M. You think he was recruited by the CIA out of Texas A&M? I don't know, but it seems like half the people who come out Texas A&M are. Isn't that so funny? For folks who are new here, I'll complete the joke here. This is a great video if you haven't seen it. I'll post it. This thread is fantastic also in the chat. But I say here in this thread, after this like 13-minute video, you can basically think of DC politics pre-2016 as being the Yale wing of the CIA versus the Texas A&M wing of the CIA. When Trump took over the GOP, the Texas A&M wing jumped over to the Yale side to save its ass politically and to save its investments financially.
Yeah.
So I just think it's funny that the star of the show here, the guy who's running it, literally went to Texas A&M. Too funny.
It's a wide distributed group of donors, which is what we want to have. We want to have no one donor dominates, and so you can't say, well, the U.S. government, is your biggest funder. Yes, it's one of the biggest funders, but it's not a huge percentage.
I bet the British government pays them too. I bet you they get British government funding. Let's see.
Wir haben die Geldströme verfolgt, aus denen sich aus.
I'm pretty sure this guy is lying here, because I read the written version of this group's report, and they said I think 50% of their funding actually came from the U.S. government, but it's distributed across a couple different U.S. government agencies. Like it wasn't just USAID. I think the State Department also provides funding as well. I hope this is in English.
CRP finanziert. Daraus ergibt sich ein anderes Bild. Die Zuwendungen aller US-Regierungsstellen zusammengerechnet machen seit der Gründung von OCCRP mehr als 50.
Yeah, they say 50%. So it has to be the largest donor.
Yeah,
if
9
it's 50%
million there, USAID.
and they've got a ton of donors, the U.S. government has to be the largest donor.
And
because
then another 100,000 from the Bureau of International Narcotics and Law Enforcement Affairs.
Can't get more than 50%. Even if there's only one other donor giving 50%, it's tied for the biggest donor, but they are saying they have dozens of donors. And if the U.S. government is 50% of it, mathematically, they have to be the single largest donor.
50% aus. Damit ist die amerikanische Regierung mit Abstand der größte Geldgeber von OCCRP. In 2016, im Jahr der Panama Papers, waren es über 80% Gelder von der
80% of the funding for the Panama Papers. Let me look at this OCCRP. Yeah, Washington supplies half of its budget. So this guy just lied to the camera. Damn, busted, flat busted, lying. Is it hot in here?
Der US-Regierung.
I'm very proud to say that I think OCCRP is one of the best achievements that USAID has made in the field of democracy and governance. We were...
Don't you just love it? International development. The U.S. Agency for International Development of Assets. International Development of Assets. That's what USAID is. The U.S. Agency for International Development of Assets. State Department assets. CIA assets. Pentagon assets. Their assets include the media companies, media organizations.
The main funder from the beginning. And there were many others.
Von der US-Regierung.
I'm very proud to say that I think OCCRP is one of the best achievements that USAID has made in the field of democracy and governance. We were the main funder from the beginning.
Wow. How about that?
Busted. Okay, 1202 timestamp. And listen to him say, just juxtapose these two clips.
No one donor dominates. And so you can't say, well, the U.S. government, is your biggest funder. Yes, it's one of the biggest funders, but it's not a huge percentage.
So that's what the guy running the OCCRP says.
Wow.
Let's see what the donor says, the U.S. government.
We're the main funder from the beginning, and there are many others that have come along since and are very welcome, and it's very nice to talk about OCCRP's many supporters now, but at the beginning the U.S. was the only supporter of the effort.
I wonder who supports all of those supporters who support them now.
Significant way.
We wouldn't be too shocked to find out that we support them.
We were the only donor. And now they've got a bunch of co-donors that the U.S. government probably helped bring along.
Bingo, yes.
To capacity build the organization further. The State Department probably walked over to the U.S. Embassy in Poland and the U.S. Embassy. They probably walked over to all these different governments. I bet you there's 5 or 6 NATO country governments who are also funding the OCCRP.
Along with an assortment of NGOs.
And they're going to call those other donors. It's just top-up funds. It's the same thing with this. Started off being sponsored just by USAID and NED, and they bring in George Soros. Hey, we're going to regime change the government by building up these censorship entities in Brazil. Kick in at 20 million, become a donor to this organization too. You'll help that effort, and you'll probably win $500 million in government contracts from the new government that we set up with our puppet in place. That's so funny. What a juxtaposition. The way the head of the organization lies. And then the U.S. government just comes in and says, no, actually, it's us. It's been us all along, and we're proud.
Regarding like our first interview in Sarajevo, you said one really important thing. You said you don't have a dominating donor. Like, would it be wrong to say that the U.S. government is the main donor of OCCRP?
I can give you the numbers. I don't.
Boy, all that eloquence just goes completely out the window as soon as he's pressed. Can't make eye contact. So, hey, in our previous interview, you sort of lied to us, didn't you? I can explain. It's what's the thermostat?
No, it's probably the largest donor. That's
what did you say a minute ago?
Of donors, which is what we want.
Abhängig zu sein.
We're a grant-supported organization. It's a wide distributed group of donors, which is what we want to have. We want to have no one donor dominates, and so
no one donor dominates. A wide distribution, but one is a full 50%, and it dominates. It has to dominate mathematically. If you got 25 donors and one alone is 50%, so everyone else is broken up into chunks of 3%, 5%. 2%, it dominates.
So you can't say, well, the U.S. government, is your biggest funder.
Yes, you can. You literally can. The U.S. government literally says they're your biggest funder.
We're the main funder from the beginning.
And then he's confronted about it, squirms in his chair. Let's keep going.
And USAID is kind of, it's probably the largest donor.
Oh, now
it's clearly the largest donor.
It's like it's clearly the largest donor now.
Wow, quite the bad face.
There is no one donor who dominates. Well, it's clearly the largest donor. You just press into it a little bit. Just poke the belly button, and suddenly it starts squealing. Funny.
I don't know, the Middle East, or the Bureau of Near Eastern Affairs the INL, the Bureau of Democracy. I mean, it's all different U.S. government grants.
Yeah, if you start counting like NED, you know, as being government money, you know, that's also U.S. government money. Yeah, it can get up there.
Yeah, it can get up there. It can get up there. If you start counting NED, the CIA cutout, National Endowment for Democracy, yeah, NED gets 100% of its money from the U.S. State Department, which gets 100% of its money from Congress, which gets 100% of its money from U.S. taxpayers. It's the U.S. government. He is out. He really is. Wow. Yeah. This guy may crumble under oath. What's that line from Goodfellas?
Get the fuck out of here, Tommy.
I almost had him. You stuttering prick. Frankie, was he shaking? I wonder about you sometimes, Henry. You may fold under questioning.
That's literally this guy.
Yep.
I kind of think of those as different, you know. I look at State Department, USAID as kind of government money, but that may not be right.
The U.S. government is the main donor, though, right? I mean, if you look at...
It's the largest donor of OCCRP, yes. And has been for most of our history. You know, my take is that, you know, it's real simple. I know when I'm being influenced. I know.
You submit your work plan directly to the U.S. government, who then probes and questions and engages with your work plan to set it straight.
Pretty much the definition of being influenced.
You show your ass to them every year when you ask for more money. If you were not being influenced by that, you would not be getting the damn money. Your entire purpose is to be a vector of influence for the U.S. government, to seize $10 billion worth of adversary funds and put it into government coffers, to have the U.S. government's political enemies arrested. Your whole life is to serve the influence of the U.S. State Department.
When somebody wants to do something. And actually, of all the money we've taken, you know, I had more problems with Open Society money than I did with U.S. government money. There was
That's funny.
Listen, when we took money from George Soros, he gave us a much more lengthy list of demands. He had much more specific targets for his business portfolio interests.
Crazy.
George Soros invested in Halliburton. George Soros invested in Naftagaz. Yeah, we actually had to create a much more detailed work plan because the U.S. government has interests in the rare earth minerals. They have interest in the oil and gas. They have interest in the agriculture. They have interest in the trade routes. Soros just wants these energy resources and these contracts. So they have a specific list of hit people that they need the hit pieces on. That's so funny. That's so funny. You gotta love it. You gotta love it. God, and isn't this such? I mean, listening to this video, like watching this video after this one this week. I mean, I did this video a year and a half ago or whatever. But if you haven't seen it, you got to watch it. I just posted in chat. Ronald Reagan, George Soros, and the secret CIA history of the 1980s. It's just perfect. Because it's all about how Soros attached to the National Endowment for Democracy. And this guy is saying National Endowment for Democracy funds them alongside Soros. It's like the perfect embodiment of this video. Isn't that amazing? Damn.
never an attempt to influence anything that we were doing.
What do you mean never attempted to influence? It's set from Jump Street. It's in your annual friggin' work plan. It's in your annual work plan. Everything you do is influenced by them. Everything you do has to be approved by them. Everything is probed and engaged by them. When you submit your work plan for what you are going to be working on, oh, and what do you do for work? You write these hit pieces.
And so, you know, do we wish we didn't have to take it? Yeah. But OCCRP wouldn't exist if we didn't take that money in those years. And
that continues to this day. It's just because the U.S. government was the only funder in the beginning of those years. You still take it in 2024. Do we wish we didn't have to take it? Yeah, but you know what? We wouldn't be making $50 million if we didn't take the money. So, you know, we're going to take the money to write the hit pieces that the U.S. government says to write, and we're going to call ourselves independent media and just hope that you are fucking stupid.
And even now,
look how he snuck that in. Look how he snuck that in so sheepishly. He's so ashamed. Listen to this. This is what a golden sentence.
Taken, you know, I had more problems with Open Society money than I did with U.S. government money. There was never an attempt to influence anything that we were doing. And so, you know, do we wish we didn't have to take it? Yeah. But OCCRP wouldn't exist if we didn't take that money in those years. And even now.
And even now, look how he looks down. Look how he looks down at the ground.
If we didn't take that money in those years, and even now.
Yeah, if we just didn't take it, because he realizes that he's lying, he's deceiving you. If we didn't take it in those early years, we couldn't be doing what we're doing. And we still take the money. Damn, man. This is a brutal thing to watch. But these are, I mean, imagine, these are the people who, if it were not for free speech on X, these are the people who would lord over you. These are the people who are getting hundreds of people arrested by serving up scandals for prosecutors in these countries to arrest people over. Damn. These are not even tough questions, though, guys. Like, these interviewers are being real gentle. Why does this feel like a deposition? Like, these are softball questions. Like, so is the U.S. government kind of sort of funding you? That's all, folks. Like, should you have a lawyer present? These are softball questions. These are wiffle ball questions. These are like, the ball is this big, you have a cartoonishly big bat to hit it with, and you are still whiffing.
As long as the actual reporting is good, as long as the stories are good, does it really matter where the money comes from?
I would ask yourself if the Russian Federation paid the Washington Post, and the Washington Post won Pulitzer Prizes for true incriminating dirt on Hillary Clinton or Barack Obama or Joe Biden. You know how fast the executive suite of the Washington Post would be arrested? If nothing else, on FARA charges, Foreign Agent Registration Act.
Yep.
If the Washington Post had a formal cooperation agreement with the Russian Federation and submitted an annual work plan to the Russian Federation of what it would publish about Joe Biden.
For me, why we wouldn't do it, it's more a matter of what you become accustomed to, right? If the government is paying half of your payroll, right, it's going to be on your mind. And so, you know, I think I would prefer not to have to think about that.
Von 60 auf 22% gesunken.
But it's diversified because this is misleading. They're saying the U.S. government, but they're leaving out the National Endowment for Democracy, which is the U.S. government. The National Endowment for Democracy receives 100% of its funds from the U.S. government, and it reports to the House Foreign Affairs Committee. It reports to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. It is funded by and reports directly to the U.S. government for oversight and accountability as a U.S. democracy promotion program.
We've also researched about corruption, crime scandals in Eastern Europe, like in the OCRP region that were related to U.S. government or to U.S. big corporations like Microsoft. I mean, there were different Microsoft scandals, as you might know, in Eastern Europe, Bechtel, highways. But we didn't find a really big OCCRP story on any of that. No
I want to hear that again.
Microsoft, no Bechtel.
That's incredible. Microsoft, who works hand in glove with the National Endowment for Democracy. How many streams have I talked about Microsoft working with the National Endowment for Democracy in its censorship programs? The Democracy Forward, I'm sorry, the Protecting Democracy, Defending Democracy program at Microsoft, which spawned NewsGuard. Democracy Forward. Started in 2018. Countering disinformation, countering disinformation. CISA is a Microsoft network. Chris Krebs came from Microsoft. Clint Watts is now at Microsoft's Global Threat Intelligence. Ben Nimmo is now at Microsoft. Oh no, I think Ben Nimmo's at Facebook. Who else was it? The whole network crawls with it. And Microsoft works directly with IRI and NDI and NED on all their censorship programs. And they say they do it because democracy promotion work helps Microsoft's bottom line because it secures favorable government conditions for Microsoft to operate. Now, this is so amazing. So Microsoft is a constant co-sponsor, just like George Soros' Open Society. Microsoft is a constant co-sponsor of State Department activities. A donor and drafter. Remember, I always say the oversight of the blob is the donor and drafter class. And everyone always says, what do you mean by donor and drafter class? What I mean is they belong to the class of corporations and banks and outside stakeholders who donate into the government programs and draft off of the government activity. So they put money into it like an investment. Then the government pulls off a successful operation and they draft behind the government because their own business enterprise benefits from the government, U.S. government action in that region. Securing them natural resources, securing them contracts, securing them favorable labor conditions, securing them favorable regulatory approvals. And listen to what he says here. That is incredible. So there are all these corruption scandals with Bechtel. Bechtel is one of the main firms in Confessions of an Economic Hitman. And Microsoft, and look what he says.
We've also researched about corruption, crime scandals in Eastern Europe, like in the OCRP region, that were related to U.S. government or to U.S. big corporations, like Microsoft. I mean, there were different Microsoft scandals, as you might know, in Eastern Europe, Bechtel, highways. But we didn't find a really big OCCRP story on any of that. No Microsoft, no Bechtel, no Exxon, no Chevron. Does that surprise you?
No.
Isn't that incredible? These corruption journalists. We just want to get rid of corruption. Doesn't matter where it comes from. But we're funded by the U.S. government. And all of these companies, Exxon, Chevron, you guys remember I put up, and I'll do it again, Victoria Nuland in front of the, where was she? In Eastern Europe in December 2013 when she made the announcement about, of the, what was it, $5 billion that the U.S. government had pumped into Ukrainian civil society organizations involved in the regime change just 2 months later in Ukraine that kicked off the whole Ukraine crisis we're currently in. She said that as the Assistant Secretary for Europe and Eurasian Affairs for the U.S. State Department, she made that announcement in front of, at a sponsored event by ExxonMobil and Chevron, who they just name dropped here, saying they will refuse to report. OCCRP does not report on any corruption scandals involving Chevron or Exxon or Microsoft or Bechtel. Because those are the people who determine the jobs at the State Department. Those are the donors into the State Department. The State Department funds the Corruption Reporting Project. So the Corruption Reporting Project is not going to cover those scandals involving the State Department's friends. Why? Because it is mercenary media for the state. Nothing independent about it. It's simply CIA media, just like in the old days. No more, no less.
No, if you are funded by the U.S. government, there are certain topics that you would simply not go after because the U.S. government has its interests that are above all the others. So, no, it doesn't surprise me. It simply doesn't.
The USAID people told us that basically everyone who gets major grants or OCRP directly cannot report on the ES. That you would need a waiver to do so. Is that why OCRP did no story on these renditions, secret prisons, and torture in Eastern Europe?
No, I mean, these independent journalists need a fucking waiver from the U.S. government to report on U.S. government corruption.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
They need a formal fucking waiver. And they're out here masquerading as independent media.
That was in the early years of OCCRP. That was a difficult story to do. We didn't see it as being, I don't remember it as being something that we were particularly interested in, just because, we're interested in organized crime and corruption, and that wasn't, strictly in our bailiwick. I think when the policy that we have is that we don't report on a country with their own money. So any government money that we get, we don't report on it. And usually it's
our policy, we're a professional hit piece, a factory assembly line. All we do is write hit pieces on people, accusing them of being corrupt. And we have a policy that we don't write hit pieces about the people who fund us. Dude, you're being recorded. There's a camera pointing straight at you when you're saying this, man. What? What are we watching? What? Bro! What was that thing? Stuff about editorial independence and we never make decisions based on the U.S. government funding us? We have a policy that we don't write about anyone who gives us money.
It's also,
ladies and gentlemen, your independent media.
I think the U.S. government doesn't allow you to,
Doesn't allow you to. Doesn't allow you to. Huh. So almost like you don't have journalistic independence because your sponsor, the U.S. government, does not allow you to write about them. Bro, there's a blinking red camera dot. This is being recorded. I'm watching you. We're all watching you.
Crazy.
It may reveal my IP address. I don't know why this special video results in me being a database, but you know what? It's worth it. It's worth it. Holy smokes! Why did I have to find this in a WikiLeaks subtweet? This is the most damning piece of media content I've seen in months.
It's wild.
This is unbelievable. Oh my God. Oh my God.
And so, but even on other countries that don't have those stipulations, we don't do it because, you know, it puts you in kind of a conflict of interest.
This dude spent the first 5 minutes of this saying we have no conflicts of interest. We have integrity. We've won awards for integrity. There's no conflict of interest between us and our donors.
Wow.
We don't say anything bad about them because that would produce a conflict of interest.
Yo, what? What?
So everything you report on is 100% top-down influenced because there is a strict stipulation from the U.S. government that you cannot mention corruption by the U.S. government. And then as a courtesy for all the other governments who pay you, for them it's just a courtesy that you don't write about them. This guy just bellied up. I've never seen such a 180 in such a short span of time. What am I thinking of right now? It reminds me of this scene.
He's looking right in our eyes as he grinds his mud.
See, I never just did things just to do them. Come on, I mean, what am I going to do? Just all of a sudden just jump up and grind my feet on somebody's couch like it's you know, something to do? Come on, I have no more sense than that. Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on Eddie's couch.
That's this guy, right? Well, we don't take direction from the U.S. government. It doesn't influence our editorial
Yeah, we take direction from the government.
coverage of corruption events around the world. Yeah, we take top-down direction from the U.S. government, and it influences our reporting on corruption around the world.
Crazy.
See, I never just did things just to do them. Come on, I mean, what am I going to do? Just all of a sudden just jump up and grind my feet on somebody's couch like it's you know, something to do? Come on, I have no more sense than that. Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on his couch.
Then it was like...
That's this guy. Like, literally, the same frame. You don't even need to cut between camera shots. And he's just...
We've never had a problem where we've felt that we were under serious pressure or even mild pressure from a government. The policy that we have is that we don't report on a country with their own money. So any government money that we get, we don't report on it. And usually it's also there's I think the U.S. government doesn't allow you to, you know. And so, but even on other countries that don't have those stipulations, we don't do it because, you know, it puts you in kind of a conflict of interest.
How can you even say things like that? It's crazy.
Our interest in the U.S. government's money and their interest in us writing mercenary hit pieces on the U.S. government's enemies.
Come on, I have no more sense than that. Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on his couch.
And then it was like, you know what?
It's too good. It's too good.
And you kind of want to stay away from those situations. We have other money to do it. We've reported on the U.S. government. We reported on the CIA buying weapons from, you know, a bunch of Balkan places, and it ended up in the hands of ISIS, you know.
Oops! Accidentally. Oh, like you and everybody else. Oh, I bet you whitewashed it. I bet you whitewashed. Oh, they bought weapons. It ended up in the hands of ISIS. Oh. Did you report on it like it was an accident? Or like the U.S. was funding ISIS in Africa as ISIS attacked Russian bases? funding ISIS in Syria as Syria was attacking the Russians and Bashar al-Assad in Syria, who, by the way, you yourself have named Bashar al-Assad as Person of the Year in organized crime and corruption. The U.S. government was funding ISIS as ISIS attacked Bashar al-Assad's forces. Oh, but you reported it as an accident. It just ended up in the hands, not as corruption.
You know, they were not happy about that, and I had a number of questions afterwards, you know, after that story came out, and, I just simply said, you didn't know about it,
I think it's correct.
No pressure at all, not even mild pressure. They talked to us after we published that story, and they said, well, listen, we're just trying, we published that to help, so that you can stop funding ISIS. And the State Department's like, listen, you fucking idiot. We know we're funding ISIS. We're funding ISIS to kill the guy that we have had you name the most corrupt person of the year. Okay? You're not telling us something we don't fucking know at the State Department, where we have access to every single CIA classified memo on ISIS. We know we're funding ISIS. We don't want the world to know we're funding ISIS, you idiot. And so they gave him a talking to and a tongue lashing. Don't do it again. Not even mild pressure. It's too good to be true. This is one of these rare moments where, like, it feels too good to be true, but they're confessing it. Live on this live stream, where my IP address is being revealed to however many government agencies. They're monitoring this.
To say that the work of OCCRP is in harmony with U.S. foreign policy at the broadest level.
The work of independent media that we're funding is in harmony with U.S. foreign policy. They are instruments of statecraft, hence why they are being funded by the U.S. State Department.
Because the work of independent journalists is an important part of...
Notice how I have to say it? Take a shot every time they say independent. We would not exist without the U.S. government's funding. Oh, so you are dependent on the U.S. government. Oh, so you are dependent media. Oh, but you're dependent on us. They mean independent of their adversaries. That's what that means. Independent media means CIA asset, okay? It means State Department asset. It means USAID asset. It means Pentagon asset. And that word independent just means it's independent of the State Department's enemies. Anyone who publishes something vaguely against the State Department immediately loses their status as being independent media, because then we'll call them a propagandist for the Russians or the Chinese or the Iranians or the Martians.
Of promoting democracy, which is an important part of our foreign policy.
I mean, but don't talk about U.S. government corruption. Don't talk about Microsoft corruption or ExxonMobil corruption. Amazing.
Look at the Foreign Assistance Act. It says several times in there that the funds should be used to advance American foreign policy.
It does advance American foreign policy when you have good investigative reporters around the world
who are investigating the U.S. government's political enemies. Fill in the rest of the sentence, Drew. You're leaving a few pieces of critical information out. Why? You're only going to confess and say them 3 sentences later. We know you by now.
That's why they gave us the grant in the first place. When corruption is addressed in places and corruption is outed in places, that there's already been a decision that advances foreign policy because they gave us a grant. I don't care that it advances their foreign policy. I'm asking money to do a particular thing, and if they're going to give it to me, then that's fine.
Listen, I'm asking for $50 million. And I'm gonna, if it helps them and that's what gets me the money, I'll write it. Hit pieces for hire, mercenary media for the state. Banish the word independent from your mind. Independent media, every time you see it in that phrase, by anyone vaguely affiliated with the blob, that is a CIA mind warp term to 180 you from the truth. The truth, it is completely dependent on the U.S. government, on the U.S. State Department. It is a vassal puppet organ that is simply an instrument of statecraft. It is CIA media.
It's not ideal. I'm fully aware, and we balance this and have balanced this successfully for 17 years of doing this, and it's difficult at times to do this, but it's flexible enough where we're able to do that.
They pretty much confirmed that the money from US aid and other state donors implies that with this money you cannot report on US matters.
That is a restriction, obviously, that in the wonderful ivory tower world that I live in at ProPublica, we would not accept that. We do not allow people to impose restrictions on our reporting. That is how we look at it. And again, if you go to the examples of the for-profit enterprises, I don't think that the New York Times would accept an advertisement from the Ford Motor Company and say, but you can't write about Ford. That will be unacceptable. We would say, well,
yeah, because it's implied. They don't need a formal cooperation agreement to say it.
if that's what you want, then I think we have a problem here.
So where did the first funds come for OCCRP?
So the first funds came from United Nations Democracy Fund.
So steht es auf der Website von OCCRP.
Democracy Fund. Again, democracy just means regime change. It just means blob control. So it's a fund to create a pool of hundreds of journalists to promote blob control around the world.
CRP. Alles begann mit der UNO.
When you talk about the creation, right?
I wonder if this thing is still around and what it's doing now. United Nations Democracy Fund. How many other media organizations are receiving this money? I wonder if that's publicly available. Searchable project database. All right. Let's do 2023, I guess. Project focus media. Oh my God. Look at this color revolution shit. How to engage the youth. I bet that's all going to be about street mobilization. This is going to be about lawfare and prosecutors. This is going to be tech. This is going to be creating whole society. Media. Let's just see how much they've given out to the media.
Ooh.
They have a whole section for media in Project Focus, but they don't have any projects listed. That strikes me as very suspicious.
That is sketchy.
They just said they started in 2007 with the fund. Did they just not list
all the
them?
money going?
That's amazing.
Not telling us?
So they're just lying to you. Let's just do all. Guys, do I ever lie to you? What's the technical term? What do I always say? What's the magic phrase in Blobcraft? What phrase do I always stress?
Now, this is an important term here that I talk about a lot, and a lot of people might not catch the significance of it, but it's called capacity building. This is a concept in nonprofit world which refers to the pumping up of financial resources and personnel and technological abilities, but number one is financial resources. So for example, when the State Department wants to run an operation in a foreign country, the first thing they do is they capacity build all of their civil society and private sector and news media outlets there. They pump them up so that they're more useful as assets, so that they have higher capacity to carry out the things they will be instrumentalized for.
Capacity building. Grant number one, capacity building. Capacity building of assets. Media development. Development of media assets. They're funding 100 different practitioners here. Global Forum for Media Development. Media development programs. Media development means capacity building media organizations, giving money to media organizations, sponsoring media, mercenary media for the state, hit pieces for hire, strengthening the network of democracy research institutes, educational film collection on contemporary democracy, Transitional justice processes. Remember what I always say about transitional justice and what that means? That means the State Department coercing a newly elected government to arrest everyone from the previous government so they can't rise to power again.
We have a concept in American statecraft called transitional justice, which is this idea that essentially after the U.S. overthrows a country, we arrest all of the opposition politicians, opposition judges, opposition journalists, propaganda spreaders, in order to stop the reemergence of threats to democracy. No, I'm not joking.
You make it a one-party state so it can be a democracy.
Right.
Is this China pushing this, or the United States, just to be clear?
Or the United States. This is the United States. And we do that just to stabilize the democratic institutions and effectively make it cheaper for the United States to manage, because you don't need to manage the constant recurring threat of the party you just vanquished. So this was something that the U.S. State Department was spearheading years before Trump got into office, and it was so effective that these same cast of characters are back for Trump.
Yep, using the machine they built to come after him.
Just like they did here in the U.S. with arresting Trump. Just like they did in Brazil, arresting Bolsonaro. Just like they did in France, arresting Marine Le Pen. Just like they did in Italy, arresting Matteo Salvini. Just like they did in Poland just this year. Transitional justice. Remember, we read that National Endowment for Democracy playbook on transitional justice. But here you see it. Isn't that amazing? Isn't that amazing?
Wow.
How the sausage is made, folks.
The creation of OCCRP.
I think it's fair to say that without U.S. support, OCCRP would not exist. Because the reality is that funding is always a constraint. So there are a lot of great people with great ideas, and the funding is limited. So the job of people at USAID, like myself, is to try to sift through what are the worthy ideas and what are the needs in any country context. And so USAID and someone like me is extremely lucky when someone like Drew Sullivan and Don Pine, who was his partner at the time, walk in the door with a great idea and say, hey, we think that this would really work. It's a bit of a risk, but we want to try this. And then, it's the job of someone in my position to sort of weigh that, consider it, see if it fits within, a portfolio that we have or responds to any open solicitation that we have, and then put the money to match that.
We're proud that we're the first public donor, that USAID is the first public donor, and the U.S. government is the first public donor to OCCRP. But, we're proud of that, but we're also aware that, and mindful of how uncomfortable sometimes the relationship can be.
So the collaboration between USAID and state law enforcement unit, I think, was essential to getting the whole thing off the ground. Law enforcement would be interested because the ability to uncover corrupt schemes and often international schemes is incredibly complicated, and having more eyes, more talent allocated to unraveling these networks, finding out where the assets have been hidden and how the money's been laundered, and using offshore and other facilities. This kind of work is incredibly complicated, and the more eyes and hands on it, the better. And sometimes, of course, I think the beauty of investigative reporters and truly independent journalists, and independent in a serious way, is that people will talk maybe more to a journalist than they might necessarily to a government official. And so
So they're very useful to us, the OCCRP, the Corruption Reporting Project, because people think they're talking to a journalist. They don't realize they're talking to the CIA. So they'll be more candid. They'll just tell these journalists their story and hope to get favorable coverage, not realizing they're actually giving intelligence to the U.S. State Department and USAID. They're actually giving intelligence to the CIA. So these journalists get access that we couldn't if it was government officials asking them. Which lends me to another topic that I wanted to talk about today, actually, which is the U.S. Information Agency. I posted about this earlier this week when I talked about the evolution of the Office of War Information under the War Department in 1942 to the U.S. Information Agency in 1953, which shut down in 1999 and was merged into the newly created State Department Bureau for Public Affairs and Public Diplomacy, which would later be run by Rick Stengel and create the Global Engagement Center, the Censorship Center. But I bring this up because the U.S. Information Agency was the U.S. propaganda formal government agency from 1953 to 1999. It then shut down in 1999 and was turned into a newly created State Department Bureau for control of all of our media assets, all of our CIA media assets, all of our U.S. Information Agency broadcasting media networks. But what's interesting is you'll see this, it says in 1999, prior to the reorganization of intelligence agencies by George W. Bush, Bill Clinton assigned the U.S. Information Agency's non-broadcasting and intelligence functions to the newly created Undersecretary of State for Public Diplomacy, which again would later create, it's this exact place that would later create the Global Engagement Center, the censorship hub. So what do you think they mean by, again, U.S. Information Agency was supposed to be a broadcaster of U.S. media with U.S. journalists, U.S. filmmakers, U.S. radio stations. So all they do is broadcast, right? They're a broadcaster. Oh no. They had non-broadcasting intelligence functions. Because the journalists, the filmmakers, were out there collecting information and passing it on to the CIA, passing it on to the State Department. They have their tentacles in every country, in every region where they are producing media. They make contacts with the government officials, with the captains of industry, with the oligarchs, and they collect that intelligence, the intelligence function of the media, and it's passed on so that the intelligence agencies and its boss, the State Department, can make use of that intelligence they gather. And here you have him saying this directly. Let me run that back a few seconds.
The beauty of investigative reporters, though, is, and truly independent journalists, and independent in a serious way, is that people will talk maybe more to a journalist than they might necessarily to a government official. And
they will talk more to the journalist than they will to a government official. So that journalist will then perform the intelligence functions by telling the grant coordinators about the information they find. They're gathering intelligence for their donors.
And so having journalists do this work maybe, I think, lends a certain, reduces some fear and encourages more openness, because people do, even some people that are aware of criminal activities, they also sometimes want to see justice done. So, but it's tricky if you're dealing directly with law enforcement. So law enforcement is happy to have other external actors do that kind of work.
So they're tools of the prosecutors. These journalists are tools of the prosecutors. They're working with them, which is why USAID is so happy to brag about all the arrests and indictments that these journalists have caused, because they're working hand in glove with U.S. law enforcement, the FBI, the CIA, and the local prosecutor assets that the State Department has purchased, like with Joe Biden and Viktor Shokin in Ukraine, the prosecutors in Georgia, or the prosecutors in Moldova. Hand in glove, a seamless operation.
So USAID or USAID told us in the same room that you're in right now that the original money for OCCRP came from INL, which is the law enforcement and narcotics part of the State Department.
I think. Oh, that's awkward. So, USAID told us that actually the first government agency to fund you was an offshoot of U.S. law enforcement designed to arrest people. And then you went out and you wrote hit pieces and dug up dirt on the people the State Department was trying to arrest so that these people could get arrested. So you were basically a hit piece for hire to serve as the evidence gathering function for prosecutors.
Okay.
But we just,
yeah, that might be right. So we put in a unsolicited proposal
Yeah, so that would have been, yes, it would have been INL.
But what I don't understand is, like, why don't you just say in your website that the original funding for OCCRP came from the law enforcement division of the State Department?
Well, that's a technicality, you're right, John, but you have to understand, looking at it from our perspective.
It's not a technicality. It's your original source funding. It was your mother. It's the thing that gave birth to you. The reason you don't put it on the website is because you are supposed to be Romanian journalists just interested in corruption in Romania, Estonian journalists just interested in corruption in Estonia. If the first thing people see on your website is actually, while these look like journalists in Romania reporting about corruption in Romania, they're actually funded by U.S. law enforcement, a foreign country's prosecution and indictment services, to get people in Romania opposed to the State Department arrested. It would reveal you, Drew, to be butt-ass naked to the world about who you dance for. Like a monkey.
Perspective, you know, all this was what we needed to do to orchestrate the money, and we really considered kind of the UN money as being...
What? Say that again? What? Say what? Say what again? Say it again.
Motherfucker. Enforcement division of the State Department.
Well, that's a technicality, you're right, John, but you have to understand, looking at it from our perspective, you know, all this was what we needed to do to orchestrate the money, and
No, he did not just say that. Stop it. Stop it. You're right, John. That would have been the honest thing to do. But looking at it from our perspective, this is what we had to do to orchestrate things to get the money. You're right, John, but that would be the honest thing to do, but it wouldn't have gotten us the money. This is media gold. This is a Hall of Famer. This is an all-timer.
It really is something.
I've never seen someone just
yes, these are peppers. Absolutely.
Belly up like this Rick James.
Oh, love me some peppers.
James thing we watched. Like that was a skit. This is a comedy skit.
He's looking right in our eyes as he grinds his mug.
See, I never just did things just to do them. Come on, I mean, what am I gonna do? Just all of a sudden just jump up and grind my feet on somebody's couch like it's you know, something to do. Come on, I got no more sense than that. Yeah, I remember grinding my feet on his couch.
Are they hot? Pepper's hot. Some of them are hot. Kind of like a spicy lottery that you win some of the time. Good fun. There's shishito peppers, Japanese. Buy them in most grocery stores. They come in bags. Shishito. S-H-I-S-H-I-T-O. Shishito. Yeah, they're great. The ones that are spicy aren't like ridiculously spicy, but it's enough to make you say, oh, hello. They're incredible. You have an air fryer, just pop them in the air fryer at like 425 degrees for, I don't know, 4 minutes. Just until the surface starts to blister a little bit. So it starts to char. Or if you have a grill, even better. And I do the air fryer when I'm not doing like hot dogs or something. I just want to eat it. Pepper snack. They're incredible. Amazing. Yeah. You don't have to worry about the seeds. You just eat them whole, other than the stems. Whole thing. Delicious. So good. Sprinkle with salt too. That's all you gotta do. Spray it with like a avocado oil. Forgot to mention that. Oh yeah, you gotta get an air fryer if you don't have an air fryer. But even if you don't, again, just toss them on the grill for like, it doesn't take long, maybe a couple minutes. 60 seconds, flip them, 60 on the other side. But you spray them with avocado oil, high heat, high temp oil. Olive oil would probably work. Came down to it. I do avocado oil. Sprinkle them with salt.
No, listen, we've won all these awards for integrity. We've won 100 awards for our integrity, our independent media integrity. Why weren't you honest? Well, if we were honest, we wouldn't have gotten the money. Oh my God. God, no wonder they weren't.
These are like bar food in Japan, but they eat bars instead of like fries. Although they eat those too, but shishi tip.
Able to publish this. No wonder the only way to access this is by giving the FBI your IP address. That's incredible.
Well, how nice.
This thing's dynamite.
And we really considered kind of the UN money as being, you know, that's how we started OCCRP.
I think Drew's just nervous about being linked with law enforcement. Yeah.
But why?
Well, because sources maybe, right? If
No, because it reveals that they are hit pieces for hire to get the State Department's enemies arrested. It all comes back to that, okay? The State Department has enemies in Belarus. The State Department has enemies in Ukraine. The State Department has enemies in Moldova, and Latvia, and Lithuania, and Estonia, and Hungary, and Slovakia, and Poland. They have enemies there. They have political enemies who want to do things for their own country that the State Department does not want them to do. And those enemies need to be taken out. And the best and most effective and most totalizing way to take someone out is to get them arrested. And that is why Drew will not be honest on the website, or has to shift nervously in his chair and can't make eye contact and has to, I don't know, maybe, yeah, I guess kind of you're right, is because it would reveal that this is just hit pieces for hire to achieve the State Department's objective of arresting the State Department's enemies. That's why they are getting the money. And that's why that is the coup de grace on USA.gov, might as well be CIA.gov, of their achievements. What have they done to advance U.S. interests to have gotten $50 million in U.S. taxpayer money? They work with law enforcement to get the State Department's enemies arrested around the world. Around the world. They're a mini little FBI, except they get to publish their findings publicly. You know, the FBI is just the intelligence arm of the Justice Department. They do investigative research on their targets. How do you think OCCRP got access to the hacked documents for the Panama Papers and all the other hack and leak documents they've been a beneficiary of? Well, they're working with U.S. law enforcement, who has the ability to hack electronic documents, hack into them, and then distribute them to their journalist network to publish about. It would reveal them as not independent media, but a literal intelligence service of the U.S. government. CIA media. And then there goes the whole ruse that they're independent.
If people that are going to give you information think, oh, you're just an arm of, you're just a cop, right? I mean, maybe it's a problem. Or, and other government.
But they are just a cop. That's why you brag about how many people they get arrested. And you know that they are just a cop. They're just an undercover cop. But that would put the lie to them being independent media. Oh, it's so evil. Just so that we can ruin the lives of hundreds and hundreds of people around the world for opposing gas pipelines in the country, for opposing war funding in the country to support Ukraine. God, it is sick.
Say you're trying to get into a country and do something, and the government says, what are you, law enforcement or not, right? Like, there's a need that, the separation, the independence is important.
No, my friend. The plausible deniability is important. Listen to what he said. These people wouldn't be allowed in these areas. They wouldn't be allowed to operate in these countries if it was known that they were working behind the scenes as an arm of U.S. prosecutors, as an arm of U.S. intelligence. But they're only able to do it by maintaining a lie that they are independent media. That's why,
which of course they're not.
Why, as he says, that independence is important. It's important for the operation.
What are you, law enforcement or not, right? Like, there's a need that, the separation, the independence is important.
This is like someone explaining the concept of an undercover. It's important that a CIA undercover does not walk into the building with a name badge saying, "Hi, I am Mike Benz, I work for the CIA." It's important to maintain that distinction, that actually, no, I am an independent media member of the press, because otherwise I couldn't get into the building. Like, this is so 101, how painfully oblivious these people are to how they sound. It's just amazing.
Because if you lose that, you lose your sense of, like, it's a value. Your reputation is incredibly important.
They lose their reputation. Yeah, they're an arm of the U.S. government. We only fund them because they advance U.S. interests. They work as an intelligence function for us. We approve everything they do. We can hire and fire anyone we want there. We give them all half of their money. But, it's important to maintain the ruse so that we fool people so that they think they're media instead of a machine of the state.
If you lose it, then and that's I would say that maybe would be maybe like a threat if it was seen as too connected to
law enforcement.
Yeah.
Der Director for Security and Law Enforcement beim State Department war damals David Hodgkinson. Heute hat er eine leitende Funktion bei der Koordinations...
ODNI, it's literally intelligence. It's literally the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the Director of Private Sector Partnerships. Stop this! It's already dead. Stop this. Oh my God. What, are you kidding me? The Director of Private Sector Partnerships, are they going to say there's a formal partnership between the ODNI and the media? Let me tell you something, man. Operation Mockingbird didn't have shit on this. Oh yeah, that was true in the 1950s and the 1970s. Did you know that the largest media conglomerate in the world of investigative journalists actually is a direct partnership with the U.S. Director of National Intelligence?
Surprise, surprise.
Which is a special program on private sector partnerships that they work with them with?
Stelle der amerikanischen Nachrichtendienste.
A guy named Dave Hutchison asked you to submit an unsolicited proposal.
We came to him with an idea, and then he...
Listen to that. He asked you to submit an unsolicited proposal. My friends, do you understand the definition of solicitation? No. They didn't ask us. The CIA didn't ask us to do this. The Director of National Intelligence, the U.S. intelligence, didn't ask us to create this media organization. No. They asked us to send an unsolicited proposal. Do you remember earlier when he said, oh, we sent an unsolicited proposal? It was our idea. Oh, but the Office of the Director of National Intelligence, the CIA, the NSA, the 17 intelligence agencies under the ODNI, the aggregate of all of U.S. intelligence told you to submit your proposal. So it is not unsolicited. They solicited you to write an unsolicited proposal. This one is everything, guys. This one is every lie in the book. So remember earlier he stressed it was an unsolicited proposal because it needs to look like it was his idea. If it was the intelligence agency's idea in the first place, they can't even say anymore, oh, we're just giving a gift to someone who came up with a great idea. It was your idea in the first place. It was not just, I mean, it's literal U.S. intelligence, the Director of National Intelligence. They solicited intelligence, U.S. intelligence solicited this media group to write an unsolicited proposal to create a worldwide 250-person hit piece for hire factory and asked for it to be an unsolicited proposal so that U.S. intelligence and the U.S. State Department could forever after act like, oh, it wasn't our idea, when they asked them to write the proposal.
He said the best way to do this to get this money is to put in for an unsolicited proposal. That's a vehicle you can use.
The best way to get this money, get this money, get this money. How many times has he said, well, listen, we didn't want to do this, we wanted the money. So we did what the State Department asked because we wanted the money. We did what USAID asked because we wanted the money. We did what the Office of the Director of National Intelligence asked because we wanted the money. They said, well, the best way to get the money is for us to lie about this whole arrangement and for you to put in an unsolicited proposal so that we can act like we didn't solicit you to do it. And that's the best way to get the money. Okay, well, that's the best way to get the money. We'll dance like a little monkey.
To get money. And then INL really didn't do, they were doing kind of law enforcement work. And so what they did is they got the money and then they turned it over to USAID.
Right, USAID administered it, but the money came from the State Department's Law Enforcement and Narcotics Division.
Yes.
I'm just trying to figure out if we should say accurately that the first money for OCCRP came from the U.S. government.
That may be accurate.
OCCRP betont.
Oh, look at this, the Romanian Center. In late 2006, they were working on regional stories. He was running the Center for Investigative Journalism. He worked at the Romanian Center in a Romanian newspaper. So it comes back to Romania. This guy started in Romania. The organization had not yet been formed. They applied for the UN Democracy Fund, and then it was registered in 2000. Yep.
We also have appearance of conflict. And appearance of conflict is a real thing. Because the only thing that you have in the end is your trust of your readers. So if the readers have doubts because of an appearance, that's a real thing to worry about as journalists. I do believe that. I don't want to take money from the government. ProPublica does not take money from the government. We wouldn't consider doing it. Frankly speaking, on some rare occasions where the government has come to us and said, would you like to do, some training of journalists overseas, we'll pay you for it, we would say no. We would do it voluntarily. I just don't want their money.
Training of journalists overseas. CIA media all over the world. Well, that was incredible. Holy crap. That was incredible. I almost want to end the stream here. What do you do after that?
It really was.
How do you top that? Actually,
quite something.
We're going to do something that may actually top that.
Well, all right. let's look at some other stuff. Because I guess I'm, I guess LC isn't around. He's dealing with he's got a newborn, so. Jeez. Block of freaking crows flying overhead or something. Oh, Evermore. Creepy. Crows, man. Stop. Crazy. How can I camera? Will it give me my camera here? Look at this shit. Come on, where's the camera at? Oh, okay, there it is. Showing my iPhone camera. Here we go. Right. Yes, it is. Okay, cool. I just got to pop it into yes. Oh no. Let me. Well, I guess you guys are not gonna get it on YouTube. But I can at least do it on at least a second ago I could. Where'd it go? Now it's not showing my iPhone video. That sucks. Oh well, I give up. I guess I have to have it set up before I start streaming. It's crazy, man. 1,000 freaking crows just covering the trees. Walking. Crazy. All right, let's see. Go back to here. Oh no. Come on. Oh. There it is. Okay. Yeah. All right. I know I got a hand tagged. We were watching that. It's the 6-year-old autistic boy rescued by officers after falling into a pond, Florida, on Christmas. Aww.
Hey, bud. You're Coco? Come here. My name's Brady. Come here. Come here. You're okay. We're going to get you a blanket, okay? Come here. Good job, buddy. Got you, buddy. Good boy. You cold? Yeah. Are you his dad? Yes. Oh, your dad. Oh, Coco. It's cold. We have the fire department come just to check on the papa, okay?
Airline, does it look like she's moving?
Aw. This is nuts. Senator John Cornyn praising Islam on camera. He's up for re-election and is getting demolished in the early polling ahead of the primary. I forget who he's running against. Ken Paxton. That's right, Ken Paxton. So he thinks I guess he's going for the Muslim vote. Sicko.
So what happens in the leadership race? Are you certain that you will run for re-election in 2020? You are? Yeah. Do you think the Paxton... I mean, God willing. Oh, yeah. I mean, exactly. What does it cost? Inshallah. What does...
Did he really just inshallah? I mean, really?
What does it cost? Inshallah. What does... What happens in the...
Yeah, that'll play well. I don't know if that's new or old or what, but either way, what an idiot. A Texas teenager was rescued by her father after being forced into a truck at knife point on Christmas Day by a 23-year-old man. From where?
A 23-year-old man is being held without bond after the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office says he allegedly kidnapped a 15-year-old girl on Christmas Day. Officials say the girl's father was able to rescue her before deputies took the suspect into custody. Tonight, the family of the teen is speaking with our Amanda Henderson. Amanda?
Yeah, Lynn, it's a lot of emotions, as you can imagine, but specifically gratitude from her parents that their daughter is back home. Now, this is 23-year-old Giovanni Rosales Espinosa. He is the man accused of allegedly threatening their 15-year-old daughter at knife point while she was out walking her dog. And the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office says this all happened Christmas evening, just yesterday before 5 p.m. in Porter, Texas. And authorities say when the girl was walking her dog, she failed to return home. So her father took action. Officials saying he tracked his daughter's phone through parental controls, finding her and the dog in the suspect's vehicle in a wooded area.
Way to go, man.
Before rescuing her. And while the family isn't ready to go on camera, they did give us permission to use this statement, saying, quote, "We're thankful tonight our daughter is safe, at home, and with us recovering. We'd also like to clarify, none of us knew the suspect." And again, the suspect, Espinosa, has been charged with aggravated kidnapping and indecency with a child. He does not have a bond. Montgomery County Sheriff says, in part, quote, "Detectives worked tirelessly to ensure this dangerous predator was swiftly apprehended and is now off our street." Threatening their 15-year-old daughter at knife point while she was out walking her dog.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know if she mentioned it, but they found him partially nude with her in the truck with her little puppy. Can you imagine what would have happened if he'd waited for the police and just sat there hoping they'd do it? Can you imagine? Crazy. People all gotta go, man. Your last one. Any attempt to gut mail-in voting or curb early voting options? Oh, this sicko, this idiot. Arizona's Secretary of State. What's his name? Fontes? Yeah, Adrian Fontes. This is hard.
It is rare nowadays.
Continuing to defend mail-in voting and insinuate that anyone questioning it is, of course, a racist or something.
The majority of people agree on anything. But in Arizona, the safety and security and convenience of mail-in voting is something the vast majority agree on, which is why nearly 80% of Arizona voters opt in to receive a ballot by mail.
That's not a sign that they frickin' support it, buddy.
Voting rights advocates have long warned that the threat hurled at mail-in ballots would turn into policy, and they were right. Right here at home, we've seen a slow chipping away at the early voting list. And
slow chipping away my balls.
now, there's a proposal that would completely gut the early voting list, ending mail-in voting as we know it in Arizona, and forcing you to stand in long lines. Democracy is not made more secure when you raise obstacles to make participation more difficult.
But it is somehow upheld when you raise obstacles to, I don't know, properly keeping an eye on literally everything that happens during an election by just obfuscating everything behind a computer screen.
Beauty of American democracy is that it levels the playing field. Every eligible voter is given one vote that holds the same weight as everyone else. Any attempt to gut mail-in voting or curb early voting options is an easy tell. Those who fear greater participation are not interested in security as much as they are interested in power. Our democracy is stronger than these attempts to deny voters access to the ballot box. But these
videos I need to tell.
Policies and these threats against voting by mail must be rejected by legislators and elections officials alike.
And that's the only easy tell here. Mr. Fontes has skeletons in his closet. Okay. Ah, yes. I was here. I was like literally right like 2 feet out of frame on the other side of this.
I was arrested 7.
I wonder if they posted Radix getting interviewed. Surprised it took them so long. Like this was a couple months ago. I don't know if they're like reposting this or what, but yeah, this is like go. They interviewed Radix too. Got the Whitmer guys.
I was arrested 7 days into the Biden administration. A knock on the door from the FBI. They charged me with posting a meme that was a humorous meme from 2016. So they were going back in time that said that Hillary Clinton supporters could text their vote. They didn't have to go to the polls. Obviously, nobody could possibly take this seriously except for Hillary Clinton and the DOJ. They charged me with a felony. I was convicted. I was sentenced to 7 months in federal prison. All along the way, we fought the case. They used a very vague statute from 1871 called informally called the Klan Act, which is conspiracy against rights for people who injure or threaten or intimidate people who are exercising their federal rights. Of course, they stretched the statute to go after me because I was a prominent supporter of President Trump during the 2016 cycle, and they thought that I had some influence, so they wanted to take me out. We fought the case all the way. We declined. We didn't ask President Trump for a pardon because we wanted to set a precedent. Ultimately, I got the vindication that I was looking for. The appeals court ruled that no rational jury could have found me guilty. This goes to show how the Biden administration was bringing cases without evidence against MAGA, against Trump supporters, against all kinds of people, pro-lifers. And now we're going to go out. We're no longer on defense. Now we're going to go on offense.
Doug Mackey's a bright guy. Hopefully got a bright future. Come on. There we go. All right. A 10-year-old is going viral for understanding economics better than Garland Gilchrist, the lieutenant governor of Michigan.
You know, like, I think every kid should be able to have food at school.
But they do need money for getting food for people at school.
You know,
even if first grader gets it, whatever this young boy is. 10-year-old, okay. So Few grades further, but whatever. No such thing as a free lunch. Western cities canceling New Year's Eve events over Islamic terror threats. Paris scraps concert. Sydney axes Bondi Beach festivities. Chicago and New Orleans brace for attacks. Oh, great.
Chicago officials are sounding the alarm ahead of New Year's Eve. Law enforcement agencies warning this week that large celebrations, including fireworks events, could be an attractive target for terrorists, saying there are no specific threats, but they are monitoring risks such as vehicle ramming attacks or the use of drones. And in New Orleans, city officials are requesting heightened security after the FBI stopped a threat targeting Border Patrol agents. Authorities say the suspect is allegedly affiliated with an extremist group known as Turtle Island Liberation Front, the same group tied to an alleged New Year's Eve bomb plot in Southern California. 4 alleged members of the group have been charged with conspiracy to use a weapon of mass destruction, providing and attempting to provide material support to terrorists, and possession of unregistered firearms. According to court documents, the defendants described plans they intended to implement following the New Year's Eve bombings, including their plans to target U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, ICE agents, and vehicles with firearms and pipe bombs to take some of them out and scare the rest of them.
Oh no, look at that, it froze again. Weird. I had it like working so good too.
And overseas, 7 countries are canceling their New Year's Eve.
Sometimes I get this weird issue where when I full screen a video,
plans
like
citing safety concerns. Let's bring in retired NYPD officer.
Yeah, box. Okay. What's Bobo doing? Oh, look at her. She's doing her rolls. Baby kid. Oh, Bobo. You're just ridiculous. Ham. Honey baked ham. All right. 1 second, hon. All right, let's see. What do we got next here? Zelensky will meet Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney and then hold a video conference with European leaders ahead of his meeting with Trump. When is that? When's the meeting? Is the meeting tomorrow or today? Remember. Let's see.
Зараз ми в літаку на шляху у Флориду, Сполучені Штати Америки. На цьому шляху ми зупинимось в Канаді. У мене буде зустріч з прем'єр-міністром Канади Карні. Ми з ним плануємо поспілкуватись онлайн.
I guess I'm going to have to like read that out here.
В літаку на шляху у Флориду, Сполучені Штати.
Heading to Florida. On our way, we'll be making a stop in Canada. I'll be meeting with Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney. We plan to have an online discussion. They'll be meeting with the European leaders. Discuss all issues, share information. And details about the documents I'll be discussing with the President of the States. Of course, among these details, you know which topics sensitive. We'll address all these issues. I have to assume that's probably talking about giving up land. A couple more here. Mali will assume the presidency of the UN Security Council January 1st. Seriously? Oh boy. Couldn't write a better comedy. Putin in full military uniform. Oh boy, look at that. Yeah. Kiev does not want peace. Russia will achieve all special military operation goals by military means.
Whether we are
Okay, we do get English. Good.
interested in Ukraine withdrawing its troops from the areas under their control, we're not really interested about that. If the Kiev authorities do not want peace, we will deliver on all the objectives of the special military operation by military means. Whether we are interested in Ukraine withdrawing its troops from the areas under their control, we're not really interested about that. If the Kiev authorities do not want peace, we will deliver on all the objectives of the special military operation by military means. Whether we are interested in Ukraine.
Oh, okay. Oh, another. James O'Keefe vowing to investigate the prosecutors themselves if we don't get more arrests in 2026. Oh. Good. Okay.
I think the big story of the year for us was exposing the government subcontracting DEI fraud. And I wore that ridiculous wig, and I met with these people that were getting hundreds of millions of dollars from the Treasury and SBA, and they told me that none of the money goes to minorities. It just goes to line their pockets. So even if you support these DEI, even if you think, oh, it should go to the Native Americans, it doesn't go to the Native Americans. We went to California and interviewed the Native Americans, and they want all these people to go to jail.
There's only so much we can do as journalists.
Yes.
We can expose it all day long, but if nothing gets done, what are we doing?
It actually might undermine the credibility of your journalism if nothing happens. So I think it's important for us to try to hold the people to account that hold them accountable. My vision for 2026 is we need arrests. We need people to go to prison if they break. By the way, I would go to prison if I did this. So the year in review, next year, our work will lead to arrests. And if it doesn't lead to arrests, I'm going to investigate the prosecutors themselves.
Good. Hopefully, that Florida grand jury for John Brennan, which is the only one we know about publicly so far, will end up going somewhere. It sounds like it stands a good chance to. Brennan certainly seems pretty worried about it. And so that's the only major one that we're aware of, though. So we shall see what 2026 brings. All right, I think I'm gonna hand it off to Mr. Mike D here. Yes, he is. Okay, cool. How you doing, man?
I know the people are always sad to see you go.
Yeah. Well, I gotta stretch my legs, man. I'm
Yeah, I don't know how you do it.
So as much as I hate to leave you all, I'm gonna have to do it. Yeah, appreciate you stepping in. Thanks.
Yeah, not a problem. Go check those crows out, but bring an umbrella.
Yeah, man, that was fucking nuts. Yeah, I haven't seen that in a long time.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. Yeah. Something in the air, I guess. I don't know. Yep. Especially these days. Amen. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, if there's not significant action on that by midterms, they're going to be in deep trouble. I mean, we all are, but yeah. Yep, it's starting to drag on. Pretty bad. Yeah. Where's the government, right? Yeah. I want to see that done in every state when it comes to like that, especially like all the stuff these Somalis have been doing. It's disgusting. Yeah, I guarantee it's going on everywhere. Yeah. Nice. Guess we'll see. Yep. Yeah, we'll do. I think you'll probably run till just like 35 minutes here till the top of the hour. Cool. All right, well, have a good short show. All right, YouTube. Well, that's it. That's it for me. It was a long one, but I'm gonna leave you. I'm gonna go stretch my legs. Go walk for a while or something. Need to get some exercise. Sitting in this chair for 4 or 5 hours straight. So I will. We'll catch you guys. I don't know when I'm in next. I feel like I'm probably covering for someone over the next 20. We'll see. We shall see. If not, I'll be back Monday morning. Have a good weekend. And I see you.